this week by the New England Journal of Medicine shows that a single dose of psilocybin, the hallucinogenic derived from psychedelic mushrooms, is effective in alleviating severe depression when it's combined with talk therapy.
We've established that 1 in 5 of those people for whom everything else had failed so far had seen significant improvement after 12 weeks.
Sir Norman Lamb chairs the South London and Maudsley National Health Service Trust.
I think it's very exciting. We should be clear, it's not likely to be a panacea for eradicating depression across society, but what this shows is that, particularly for those people who have what we call treatment-resistant depression, where existing treatments, antidepressants, simply fail to have any impact, a significant proportion of those people appear to respond to psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms.
The study's authors hope that its data will lay the groundwork for the US Food and Drug Administration to offer regulatory approval for the use of psilocybin in the treatment of depression. 16 million Americans alone are estimated to be suffering from it. The main news again, thousands of employees at Twitter are being laid off worldwide, with the company's new owner, Elon Musk, expected to terminate 50% of the company's workforce. The US economy created 261,000 new jobs in October. That's more than analysts expected. And the New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump may announce a fresh bid for the US presidency in 10 days' time. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Here is the Onion Week in Review Transportation Edition. In Albany, a Greyhound bus crash claimed 30 miserable lives Tuesday, finally putting over 24 deadbeat fathers, penniless drug addicts, and hapless bastards out of their misery. Emergency crews at the scene of the merciful accident described the sea of fast food bags, candy bar wrappers, and losing lottery tickets surrounding the crash site as utterly tragic, adding that the scorched corpses inside the bus were, quote, only slightly more lifeless than before the deadly accident.
Evidence suggests that most of the victims suffered during the crash, and for many years before they even boarded the bus. All I can say is, thank God no one made it.
Al-Qaeda is refusing to carry out any further terrorist attacks until the U.S. mass transportation infrastructure is drastically improved, calling the country's roads and bridges a, quote, travesty, unbecoming of a developed first world nation.
We want to turn your bridges into rubble. But if we took credit for making them collapse, no one would ever believe us.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, it is Free Talk Live. Welcome to the show. The phones are open, as always. And of course, you're welcome to bring up anything you want to discuss. Oh, I didn't even know I had that lying politician playing there in your ears while I was talking. Things are a little bit hectic over here. The last now 48 hours have been very, very busy with the drama, I guess you could say, of what happened at the campaign or the speech event that happened 2 nights ago in New Hampshire.
The debate.
Thank you.
WMUR debate, I believe it was.
Which I'm sure was just absolutely awful to watch. You and I didn't actually watch the debate.
I didn't see the debate at all, but I think I did read what kind of happened in the debate a little bit. I heard some things, but
well, we
not
know
much more than that.
That the General Don Bolduc, who is the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate here in New Hampshire, used the claim that somebody had attacked him as a point that he was making in the debate. So I think he was talking about people not getting along or whatever, like the differences between Americans or something.
Yeah, he tried to ascribe violence as it occurred elsewhere to himself, as if it had to occur to himself, when that just wasn't the fact.
Didn't happen.
Not happen.
Didn't happen. And we proved it because, by the way, we got into this for almost all 3 hours of this show last night. So if you want an in-depth deep dive into this topic, then tune in to last night's show. Joa, who was the victim of Don Bolduc accused Joa of attacking him, of hitting him, but that was proven false by the video footage that came out early yesterday, or like in the middle of the night yesterday. Basically,
that was covered
ago.
yesterday. Even okay, so not by us, but by the other co-hosts.
Well, you weren't here, but
right.
me
Neither of
and
us were.
No, I was here. You're in a time warp, Chris. It's actually been 2 days.
Oh, it has been 2 days. Okay.
Since we had this debate
I am
thing.
so busy with my life. I can't keep track of it. I don't know how you do it, man.
It's been crazy. So 2 days ago there was this Senate debate. Don Bolduc accuses our friend and co-host Joa from Breaking the Flaw, the channel on YouTube and Odyssey, accuses him of hitting him. Has the police arrest him. Now the police saw it. So they knew he didn't hit him, so they didn't charge him with assault.
Yeah, he kept saying he hit me repeatedly to like the police and or maybe media that was recording. I'm not sure. That was just crazy, you know.
Also, he was also saying it probably to activate his troops.
His troops, yeah. It may have been his troops that he was sort of aiming that to.
I think he wanted the police to arrest him. And in fact, in the video that is going to come out, it's actually up on Odyssey right now. It literally went up just moments before the show started. I haven't even been able to send the link anywhere, but if you follow the Free Keen Odyssey channel, the video's there. The third angle that had not been seen previously, so we only had like a 2-angle video, which was crystal clear. That's all you needed was 2 angles. But in the third angle, you can see Bolduc smiling after he says he hit me. So he says he hit me at least 3 times. Joa says it was like 4 or 5 times, but there's at least 3 that are real clear in the video. So on the final time after he says he hit me, the camera pans over a little bit, and you can kind of see Don Bolduc on the right side of the screen smiling. And that's at the same time that they're going in to arrest Joa. So it's like, if I had hit you, like if you actually get hit by somebody, you're probably not going to be in a mood to smile 5 or 10 seconds later. I mean, maybe I'm going out on a limb with that one, but I feel like
the problem is, you know, he's changing what the accusation is now. Like
he has,
and it's interesting because he went from he hit me repeatedly and pretending to have his arm hurt apparently as well.
Yeah, we see that in the video.
You know, and it's like, well, clearly from the video you didn't have your arm injured. And
well, he did hit Joa with his arm.
He did.
So he
but
just
it
kind of
wasn't
like an elbow, like a reverse.
Yeah, but it was
behind him kind of elbow.
Wouldn't have been like an injury of any kind.
No,
that
it wouldn't
would have had pain. You know, as a result of.
He was hamming it up for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just crazy, and it's. You know how these politicians get away with lying is just beyond me. You would think that when a politician or a candidate is running for office and rallying their troops, they know they're going to have at least half a dozen cameras on them. So why would you make something up that you're going to get called out on?
I don't know. It was a really just a stupid move on his part. That said, the conservative-leaning media is not calling him out for the most part.
That's true.
Some of the more mainstream media, they came across the video and they have actually asked him about it. So what you said was he had changed his story. So originally it was he hit me, and then it became, the headlines from the conservative media then became Don Bolduc dodged a punch. So the story was then that some crazed libertarian assailant threw a punch at Bolduc, and that he dodged it, or it just grazed him, was what the statement was. And then, not quite 24 hours later, it was the noon news yesterday in New Hampshire.
And remember, the police never even charged him with any assault or anything of that nature.
Only charged with criminal trespass and disorderly conduct. So anyway, at the noon news, we played this clip last night from WMUR where they interviewed Bolduc again, and he admitted that it wasn't an assault. And he said further that he thought the person might assault him, meaning Joa, our friend. He thought Joa might assault him, but if it weren't for the police being there, and then he was like, I love the police, thanks to the police for their protection, blah, blah, blah. So he used it as an excuse to talk about how much he loved the police.
I'm just not buying it. I mean, I watched the guy. Now, understandably, there's different angles. I will admit that I did not thought I had everything. So I was actually there and I filmed this.
Right.
And
Yeah, you were probably the most critical shot of all of them.
Oh, was I?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of good to know.
Yours was the only one that caught Don Bolduc elbowing Joa. The other ones weren't able to see that.
Yeah. Well, it looked, and maybe my memory, again, sometimes when things happen, you don't remember things exactly perfectly. But as I recalled it, I thought he came and he was pointing at Joa, and saying he hit me, or at least, pointing. No, maybe not. He may not have said he hit me, but he was pointing at him prior to getting to the point where Joa was even interacting with them. So whatever, if my memory is correct,
your memory's not correct.
So what
you should
happened?
Review the video again. You don't even know what day it is, so you should definitely review the footage. What happened is, Joa and Bolduc converge on the same point. Bolduc is like rallying his troops, right? He's running around, he's shouting about USA, and he's putting his arms up in the air.
At what point did he make the gesture to indicate?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
So,
because that's the thing.
Bolduc's rallying his troops, and he's like running up and down, and then he finally goes up to visit the people that are his supporters up by the front, up by the sidewalk.
Right, by the street.
So he goes as close up to the sidewalk as he can. Joa is on the other side of the road at that point, the road going into the school. So they're on the same quote-unquote sidewalk. But anyway, he crosses over to meet Bolduc at the point where he stops, and then he has a few words for him about how he shouldn't go to war, basically. So I think he told us last night, he said, "You suck, and you shouldn't go to, don't go to war." And that's, as he's saying those words, Bolduc starts pointing him out to the police. That's when the police rush over, and that's when
they have the assault supposedly would have occurred.
As the police are kind of coming in, Bolduc turns around, which is, again, something you wouldn't do if you were afraid of someone, right? Like if you thought someone was about to hit you, you wouldn't show them your back.
Okay, it sounds like you're telling me this as I remembered it. So that's the thing. Like it seemed like he was indicating for the police to come over before he got in front of Joa, and they actually had their altercation.
No, they were right next to one another when he indicated that the police should
I thought he was a little bit of a distance.
Just go review the footage.
He got up closer.
Yeah, I've watched it plenty of times.
I know you did. I cut the video together. Okay?
So you can see it here in just a moment.
I'll have to watch it again.
But the number here, if you want to join us, is 603-283-6160. So what I was saying about the new news was he had backed off from the whole "he hit me" thing, and then it became, well, I thought I was going to be hit. But then apparently he did an interview with Sean Hannity after the new news, after he'd already walked back his story, where he just allows Sean Hannity to go off and make the same old claims about him being attacked again.
Yeah.
So
politicians
he's been lying this whole time, changed his story, but even when he quote-unquote walked it back, he still continued to lie, claiming he had to huddle to keep himself protected from the attack that was coming, which of course never came.
This is why video is so important.
More coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Gold and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals shipped fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold bag. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open, and you can join us here if you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, you got Ian.
And Chris.
And you can join us online anytime you want. Just head over to freetalklive.com and enjoy all the features that we have waiting for you there. We have our own social media site, so you don't have to trust the big media tech corporations like Facebook and Twitter who could delete you at any moment. You can just go to social.freetalklive.com and you can interact with other Free Talk Live listeners there, as well as some of the hosts of the show, and you've got way more freedom to express yourself there at social.freetalklive.com. Plus, Bitcoin.com is where you can go to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Just click Get Started at the top of the page. You'll get some useful introductory information, videos that you can watch that will clue you into some of the new concepts that you need to know about before you decide to actually put some money in and get yourself some cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Just click Get Started at the top of the page at bitcoin.com. All right, so Chris, you just reviewed your own footage.
Yeah,
probably for the first time in a couple days, right?
Oh, yeah. I definitely did. And I watched the video like quickly at one point too.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the things is when you're trying to film video, you're trying to get the right shot and make
you don't
sure
always
it's
know
clear.
what you got.
Right. And sometimes if you're paying attention to, like, I don't know, is it recording or, is something else going on, you can miss a couple of seconds in there. And I think that's what happened with when I was filming is I missed it or I confused who was where exactly.
There was a lot going on.
So
there's a lot to
They were
review.
Definitely closer now that I review the footage.
Right.
It was definitely more like you were saying originally and not the way I had remembered it or saw it. So yeah, and not that it changes anything in any significant way, but
Joa was close to him, but he wasn't a threat. Joa comes up to him with his hand basically completely at his side, maybe a little bit behind his back, not quite, but like it was visible, but it wasn't in any sort of a threatening posture. And his other hand has a video camera in it.
Yeah.
And you can tell there's no threat because one of the other characters, I didn't point him out in the video because he's not really that important, but the second person to kind of run up.
Yep.
So there's Joa, our co-host, there's Don Bolduc, the lying politician, or I repeat myself, Don Bolduc and Joa, they come close to one another, and then the next person to come up is Bolduc's campaign manager. And Bolduc's campaign manager's rushing over because he thinks something's going to happen, right? Like these two are on a collision course or whatever, right? But they stop. There's nothing that happens, and so the campaign manager just kind of stops. He does nothing.
Yeah.
Like he was prepared to intervene, but he didn't have to intervene because there was nothing to intervene with. There was no violence that happened until Bolduc turns around and then elbows Joa, which is crystal clear, but you have to slow the video down and you have to zoom in a little bit to be able to see it.
You definitely have to watch. If you want to know for sure if something happened in most of these types of situations, you really have to watch and replay those videos repeatedly a couple times. It's interesting. I don't think I said this on air, but I actually didn't think Joa and Don had even gotten close enough to actually physically have an interaction. But you
were wrong about that.
But I was wrong about that. One of the things though I want to give a different narrative because we're in a defensive position, the two of us.
Meaning what?
In that we're responding to what the mainstream media has reported incorrectly on this, but we've never actually, at least not while I've been on the show. Maybe you guys did the other day, but we've never, as far as I know, we've never really talked about why the libertarians were there, because I think that's important. We've never given the libertarian narrative. Why were the libertarians there, Ian?
Well, it's because Jeremy Kauffman is the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate, and he has been excluded from every single debate so far, and that's why.
Yeah. So you've got this narrative that the libertarians were there to disrupt. To be disruptive or something of that nature. And that's actually not why the libertarians were there at all.
Well, I mean, I don't know why each one of them were there, but the bulk of them seemed to be there to hold to hold Jeremy Kauffman signs. And there was some level of disruption going on because there was people shouting.
Sure. I'm not going to dispute that there were certainly people shouting different things, but that was happening on both sides.
Yeah, by no means were the libertarians like shouting down any of the rest of these people. There were a ton of people there for Bolduc and Hassan. Like there were dozens of maybe they were paid to be there, but they were there.
Something else I think is important to note about the libertarians is the libertarians were actually they were not. I mean, there was nothing indicating that you couldn't participate in this event, regardless of what your political position was. However, the libertarians were actually protesting the event and on the right of way or the side of the road and the sidewalk, basically. And this is something I think that's very important to take note of, because it goes to demonstrate that nobody was trying to trespass or violate the private property rights of any other party. And I think that's important because that's a tenet of like libertarianism.
Yeah. Well, when Joe was told to leave, because he was told to leave at some point by the head of security for the St. Anselm College, he left. As soon as he was given the order by the police to, okay, you're being trespassed, you've got to leave, he turned around and he left. And then moments later, that's when Don Bolduc came running over, and Joe just went over to him. And Joe's opinion was he was still on the sidewalk at the time, basically. Technically, he was still on the sidewalk.
Sure, it looked like it to me.
I think that's going to be an interesting question in the trial that's going to come up. But what's more interesting about it, and what you're going to see if you watch the 20-minute version of this video that just came out at the Freaking Odyssey, which you should wait until the end of Free Talk Live to do that. Go to video.freekeen.com. If you watch the video, you're going to see some really interesting things. Number one, there were 3 police officers that were on hand for security at this event, which is, typical New Hampshire, right? That there's 100+ people and only 3 cops around. But what happened was not one of those 3 officers claimed to have witnessed Joa trespassing. But yet they arrested him for trespassing anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm no legal expert. I'm not a lawyer. I can't give legal advice. But correct me if I'm wrong on this, Chris. Isn't it true, in your experience, that a police officer has to witness you trespassing in order to make an arrest for trespassing?
I feel like that there is something in relation to that. I don't feel like that. I feel like that is the case, but I don't know where that comes from. As far as is that precedent? Is that in the law? I don't know where that comes from.
I don't either.
I do.
But they didn't. I'll tell you that. Not one of these officers witnessed the trespass.
There was another interesting aspect of this, and that the officers there, the police officers there, told me when I asked this, or I don't know if I asked this quite exactly, but what they told me was that they were actually hired. So they were acting as private security. Yet they are using their policing powers to make their arrest on orders of, basically themselves.
Well, we may find out that that's still legal, right? Like if there's an officer
I'm not saying it was
illegal.
However, it is something that's interesting to note because if you're doing something on behalf of a private party, you're making an arrest as opposed to something you witnessed and have a basis for.
There's more coming up here. The number is 603-283-6160. It's going to be a really interesting case when it finally does go to court. And knowing Joa, it's going to court.
Right.
So unless they drop the charges, which they may do that too. There's more coming up here in moments, and it's Free Talk Live. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Thousands of employees at Twitter are being laid off around the world, with the company's new owner, Elon Musk, expected to terminate about 50% of the company's workforce. Ahead of Friday's firings, a class action lawsuit was filed claiming employees weren't given sufficient notice of the layoffs in violation of American law. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Texas, Tony Waterman reports.
It's expected that up to 3,700 employees will lose their jobs. In a tweet on Friday, Elon Musk said the company was experiencing a massive drop in revenue as advertisers hit the pause button. General Mills, Audi, Volkswagen, and General Motors have all frozen ad spending until there's more clarity on how the company will function under Musk's ownership.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he still plans to build a new nuclear power plant, despite reports the project could be scrapped. Sizewell C was expected to provide up to 7% of the nation's total electricity needs. From FSN's London bureau, Sally Patterson with more.
Sizewell C was one of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's last promises in office. Reports suggest the project could cost £30 billion to build. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is expected to announce a raft of spending cuts and tax rises in his autumn statement later this month. But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's official spokesperson insisted that Sizewell C would go ahead.
As the US enters the final weekend of the country's midterm election campaign, there was brighter economic news for President Biden and his fellow Democrats today. The US economy created 261,000 new jobs in October. That's more than analysts expected. The president pledged to continue making the battle against inflation his number one priority. The New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump may announce his next campaign for the presidency in 10 days' time. At a campaign rally in Iowa on Thursday night, he went further than ever before in telling supporters that he may try to make a return to the Oval Office.
In order to make our country successful and safe and glorious, I will very, very, very probably do it again, okay? Very, very, very probably.
Much, of course, will depend on the outcome of next Tuesday's midterm elections. In the UK, a series of planned strikes by the country's Railway Workers Union has been suspended, including a day of action that was due to take place this weekend. The RMT union says agreement has been reached to engage in intensive talks with employers. Christian Woolmar is a former transport correspondent for Britain's independent newspaper.
They're going to negotiate with the train operators and Network Rail, but really, we do know that unless the government sanctions a deal or a certain level of payment, then no deal will go through.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join the show. All you got to do is dial in. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And bring up anything that you want to discuss here. Although we are doing more on the Don Bolduc situation because it's been pretty constant.
Well, it's blown up. It's blown up in the last 24 hours. So
yeah, absolutely. It's a huge story right now. I mean, it's not as big as it could be. Like, it's not as big as some things that have happened, like the Robin Hood thing. That was way bigger.
Yeah, that might be
years
true.
ago when we were filling people's parking meters and pissing off the city government.
Which is really crazy that was bigger than this.
No, it's not that crazy. That was a unique story. This is just another lying
That's
politician.
True. That's true.
That's not that unusual, right? A politician gets caught in a lie.
Yeah,
that's
Shocker.
shocker. But in this case, it did involve some violence, and it did involve the politician himself actually getting, his hands dirty. Like, normally they got the police to do their dirty work for him, and the police did do his dirty work in that they did arrest our friend Joa 2 nights ago outside of the Senate debate. But Don Bolduc actually did throw an elbow at Joa. He was the first to make contact with him, even though Joa himself was in no way an actual threat. By the way, joining us now, besides Ian and Chris here in the studio, we have by remote. Is he there? I see him there.
Hey, nobody, you there?
He had previously had his headset on, but he must have taken it off. But nobody is joining us, and he should be here with us shortly. But we're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts. We have Bad Slave on the line. Bad Slave calling us from New Hampshire. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I followed. I don't know if you remember the event where the guy up in Center Harbor. Just north of Winnipesaukee up there, he has, a farm up there or whatever, and some woman was, harassing him, and he walked out on his porch with a handgun, as having already warned her that she was trespassing. Mm-hmm. I think it was even posted, and she made some kind of crazy claim and got him convicted of brandishing or whatever, and so the whole trespassing thing got pretty well explained to me, and basically they have to announce if it's in that case there was actually no trespassing signs. But if there's no signs,
mm-hmm. You have to be told.
Any indication that they have to be given notification.
Right.
And then once you're notified and you leave,
they have to be notified by someone who is authorized. I understand it. They have to be someone who's authorized to control the property, basically authorized to give that sort of notice. So like a typical employee may not be the right person at a company. They may have to have a manager give the notice, that kind of thing.
But when the cops show up, they can give proper authorization, I believe.
As
I'm
I
not
understand
so sure
it,
about
the police cannot trespass someone unless they've been told by the property manager. That seemed to be what happened 2 nights ago was, if you actually, again, the video that's just gone up at video.freekeen.com, the latest 20-minute video, you can see in there, Joa, while he's in handcuffs, gets the police to admit, he gets them to agree that until the security agent asked him to leave, until the security agent asked the police to trespass him, he was not trespassing. Even though the police wanted him to be, he wasn't.
Yeah,
He was
and it really wouldn't even have mattered, again, where he was at the time, because he wasn't on their property.
No, that's what's going to come out in court. That's what one of the things they're going to be arguing about.
I mean, you can see from the video, he was almost in. I mean, he wasn't on the main street, but he was in the area,
the road going
entering the parking lot, right?
Right. And the question is, how far into that road, when you turn into this parking lot, how deep into to that street is private property?
So I did just read the New Hampshire law on criminal trespassing, and it does seem to imply that you have to knowingly be trespassing. So that might be another aspect of this case.
Yeah.
He couldn't have knowingly been trespassing
if he thought he was on the sidewalk.
Right.
Yeah, that's another good point. Bad Slave, anything else?
So I wanted to say that Bolduc, I think, was just looking for a counter narrative to Paul Pelosi and what everybody's saying about that.
Oh yeah,
David guy that with the hammer and all that.
Yeah,
I think that
he was looking for the publicity.
Yeah, sure. That's all it was.
You know what's interesting about this whole thing too is even
another narrative.
Even negative publicity isn't necessarily bad for your political campaign, right? So, and I think this is also kind of, it's kind of interesting, right? Situation, because it very well could be and I don't know if this has happened either in the case of, what was it? Was it Nancy Pelosi that was who was it that had violence committed, or
it was
her husband?
Her husband.
So I don't know.
Allegedly.
I'm not trying to suggest that it was fabricated by them, but it's not right. Like, it could have been, and it could have been to their benefit, right?
And this was an absolute fabrication by Don Bolduc,
right?
And
now, I don't think in this case. I think he may be exploiting is the best choice of words to use an incident that wasn't maybe fabricated in and of itself by him. Joa was acting independently of him, but he utilized that incident that he sort of created.
He thought, ooh, my chance. This is my chance. Hey, thanks, Bad Slave, for the call tonight. I do appreciate it. Well, let's try Nobody again. I think we may actually have him now. Nobody, are you with us?
Nobody's here.
We have him. Welcome, sir. You've been watching this incident. You weren't there personally for it a couple nights ago, but you've definitely been watching it online. You've seen the footage. Listeners that haven't seen it can just go to freekeen.com. It is the current video there, the first thing you'll see when you go to the site. You want to weigh in on this?
Well, it seemed clear to me from the video that Joe didn't make any contact with the 5-star pussy.
It's funny too, because you're not the only person who has used that terminology with with this character. Another funny one has been calling him Don Smollett or Jussie Bolduc, referencing the actor who lied about being attacked a couple of years ago or a year ago or whatever it was.
Did Joe tell him this was MAGA country?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that this incident will have any negative effect on the guy, but
I think it will. I think we're already hearing, at least through the rumor mill, that some of his supporters are saying this is the final straw for them.
I think that's so. What I was about to say was, I think that the libertarians, it has changed some of the libertarians' minds who were going to vote for him.
I hope so,
but I don't know.
I was considering voting for him, although I really didn't want to because I hate Maggie Hassan's guts.
Yeah.
But I have put that completely aside.
Oh, thank goodness. Libertarians should know better.
Has not had any of my friends arrested personally, even though she was running the state when it happened.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, Nobody, because it really has disappointed me how many supposed libertarians have fallen hook, line, and sinker for the oldest trick in the book, which is wasted vote syndrome.
Yep.
I mean, when you become a libertarian, the first thing you learn about, or one of the first things you learn about, at least the first election season that comes up, is this wasted vote syndrome. It's the biggest thing that it's probably the biggest roadblock beyond ballot access to third parties. Is once you can get on the ballot, then you have to convince people that they should vote their conscience, that if there's an actual candidate out there that agrees with them way more than the others, that they deserve your vote. We'll continue the discussion here because there's a whole story about that we wanted to get into tonight over at the Liberty Block at libertyblock.com. We'll get to that, but I also have the latest Don Bolduc statements where he still is lying. And we'll talk about it coming up here. It is Free Talk Live.
8 great shopping tips. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks, and I am real impressed with all the ways to save that you are sending. Gabriella writes, I began buying fold-top sandwich bags to use with food items that don't need to be airtight. Even a sandwich at work won't spoil since you'll eat it within 3 or 4 hours. And fold-top bags are much less expensive than those Ziploc-type bags. And she whipped up a tasty ceviche using a can of sardines. Much easier to work with than fresh fish, shrimp, or crab meat, she says, and much less expensive. She writes, who would have thought it would be a hit with my picky son? So then she tried canned salmon. You can read her entire post on my blog where you can share how you are coping. Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 15th through the 18th. forkfest.party. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian, Chris, and nobody joining you here. And, of course, you can bring up absolutely anything you want. And everybody's aware right now that inflation is just wasting away your savings. If you have any savings and it's in U.S. dollars, your value is going down. That is what the dollar is designed to do. It's designed to extract wealth from people who have the dollar, and they're going to keep that program going. They're going to keep it. They're going to milk it all the way to the bitter end. And there's a way that you can protect yourself. There's a historic protection against inflation, and that is, well, the most stable assets in recorded history, gold and silver. BullionMax.com can help you with that. You can buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and they ship your precious metals fully insured directly to your home. You can get their silver starter kit. So maybe you've never gotten into silver before, or maybe you've never bought from Bullion Max before. It's only one per household, so it's a limited deal, but you get it at employee pricing. It's 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products, plus you get a free gold back. We've talked a lot about the gold back here since long before Bullion Max came on board. We've been huge fans of the gold back ever since we saw it. It's an amazing product, and they want you to see it in real life. It's cool to look at pictures, but it's totally a different experience to actually see it, catch the light, and it's an amazing thing. So you get a free gold back. Again, 1 per household. Go to bullionmax.com/FTL. This is when you order their silver starter kit at employee pricing. It's bullionmax.com/FTL. So we're going to go back here to your phone calls and thoughts. And Joa, the man of the last 2 days here. We've been dominated on this topic. It has been constant. The media requests, the media interviews, the constant social media inquiries, and various different debates and such going on over this. Joe, you're the man in the middle of all this. Don Bolduc attacked you 2 nights ago. He continues to lie about it, and you're on our phones now. You were with us all last night, so welcome back.
Thank you. I wanted to call just to clarify about the trespass because I know there's some confusion on that.
Sure. I'm still a little confused about what happened there because I don't feel you were clear the other night when you explained it to me.
And maybe this is a way to video drop, but I'm going to premiere at 10:15 my video footage. I haven't released it yet. I'll do it tonight. And you're going to see the head of security of the college tell me that I'm being trespassed, and then I remove myself from the property, and then
is that when you flipped him the bird?
No, that's at the beginning when he first gets there.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So I haven't been trespassed at all, right, at this moment. They didn't say it was like a secured area or anything like that, where all that activity was going on with all the supporters, all the big signs and stuff. But what happened, which is really interesting in the video too, you're going to see the head of security actually start pushing me toward the property. He puts his hands on me, starts moving me toward the property.
Wait, just to be clear, when you're saying that, are you referring to when you were in interaction with Don Bolduc, or was this before that?
Just after that, right after I walked, went up to him.
Okay.
That's when the security came over, and he starts actually putting his hands on me and pushing me toward the property. So I actually wasn't on the property, or what Penguin you were saying just a minute ago is that I assumed that I was in public, right? I went to a public sidewalk.
You were in the right of way, I believe is what they call that. It's you're basically on the side of the road, and there's a certain amount of space between the road and somebody's private property.
There's an easement or whatever.
Yeah, easement might be the correct word. But either way, it's basically it's an area you can generally walk on. You're not trespassing, and it looked to me like the law has the word knowingly in it. So even if they could try and argue, you were on private property, you weren't on private property sufficiently, even if you were, and certainly not to make not to prove knowingly on it, right?
Right.
So
also the police officers, one of them was pointing down at the ground, kind of creating a line with his hand, and he was basically saying, "Don't go past us," right? And so when I went back over there, they had no problem with me, right? Only until I went up to Don Bolduc and near the sidewalk, and you can see the curbage in the videos, and so good luck with that.
Since I've got you on the line here, Joe, I've got this clip that Bill posted. Bill Barger, who was one of the camera guys, he was the guy with the third clip that is going to be in the video that is up right now over at video.freekeen.com. And he posted this. He said last night Don Bolduc went on the Sean Hannity show, who further promoted the lie that Bolduc was assaulted. Bolduc could have corrected the record, but preferred to play victim of political violence after falsely accusing the man of assaulting him. Now remember, this clip was aired and presumably recorded. It looks like it was done live. It was aired last night. And this was after Bolduc had already said the same day, earlier in the day, that it wasn't an assault. He had already backed off the claims that he'd been hit, claimed, and then reclaimed that it wasn't an assault. So I'm just going to play this clip here, and we'll get your response, Joe. So here it is.
Sure. Well, that's good to see you both. Thank you both for being with us. General, first of all, a guy took a swipe at you last night. I know you served, 10, 12...
Okay, so he could have corrected him right then, right? Like, he said, well, actually, that didn't happen. But no, he just continues.
Hours of duty, I believe, in Afghanistan. You have 2 Purple Hearts, 5 Medals of Valor. You're a true American hero. I'm sure getting, somebody taking a swing at you is not unusual to you, not comfortable.
Really?
Though.
Really? I mean, I'm sorry, but I've been around other politicians, and I can't really remember that many who I've seen somebody take a swipe at them.
Well, he's saying because he was a general, he's been in some scraps. That's what he was saying.
Oh, in Afghanistan? Oh, yeah. Give me a break.
So let me go on with the rest of the clip.
On the other hand.
So here's Bolduc.
Well, thank you, Sean. It's great to be on tonight, and my best to your viewers. Well, it's just one of those things that... you have to guard against all the time. I'm thankful for the police being there to respond quickly. Certainly had some supporters that responded quickly. But, this guy identified himself quickly. We all kept a good eye on him, and I was able to react in plenty of time so that,
Plenty of time for what? React to what? All you did was you said things to him. You walked up to him and you gave him a piece of your mind.
These were literally a hired gang, okay? These police officers were working for these individuals.
They were working for the college.
For the college, right. I don't know if it was the college or the organizers, but it was one of the two. It's just crazy, man.
All right, there's just a few more seconds here.
Nothing happened, and the police reacted in plenty of time, and the gentleman was arrested and removed from the scene.
That's the only thing that he said that was true.
He was brought literally onto... So, Joe, you were brought onto the private property that they were supposedly trying to trespass you from, no?
Correct. Ironically, it's like you're being trespassed, and then they put cuffs on and then drag me onto the property.
What do you think about what Bolduc is saying here? I mean, he had the chance to correct the record again, but instead, he goes along with Hannity's narrative and just continues telling lies.
He's just piling it on. I was like, look he's doubling down. And then even, guys, you got to look at Brett Bart. Go look at Brett Bart. They are terrible. Oh, my God, they're tripling down.
Really?
They wrote an article. They titled it, the mainstream media is ignoring the assault on Bolduc. And I'm like,
are you serious?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, like me too. Release the video.
Mm-hmm. Ridiculous.
Oh, my God. They're tripling down on it. I never assaulted them. They just keep posting it. I even messaged them directly right away when I saw these articles, and I said, look, you need to redact this because it's not what happened. You need to watch the video on my channel. They're like, and then he didn't respond. That's
of course not.
Done.
There's apparently
send them a copy of the video. Maybe they'll be stupid enough to air it without watching it and not know they're exonerating our guy.
That's another point. Go ahead.
Yeah, the problem with this is anybody who wants to be blind can be, because you do have to watch the video carefully a couple of times to pick out exactly what happened, because things happen quick. It's not like this is, and fortunately, I will give Ian credit here. I don't know if that's the video you're referencing, but if it is, he at least did slow it down and repeated it in the video, edited it so people could actually see what happened.
Joe, any other thoughts you want to share?
Yes, that WMUR, Jennifer Crompton, the one that interviewed me on scene, I demanded that she show your video, the one that you have on Free Keen. I demanded to have that. So when they interviewed me yesterday for this, it should have been aired, your footage, to exonerate me. No, they didn't do it. They refused to do it again. So I'm calling you WMUR. You are fake news.
Thank you, Joe, for the call tonight, and keep us in the loop as this develops. I know he has filed a police report against Don Bolduc, but again, whether the police are going to do anything about it, still remains to be seen.
They were working for the guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't get my hopes up either. Hour 2's coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Thousands of employees at Twitter are being laid off around the world, with the company's new owner, Elon Musk, expected to terminate about 50% of the company's workforce. Ahead of Friday's firings, a class action lawsuit was filed claiming employees weren't given sufficient notice of the layoffs in violation of American law. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Texas, Tony Waterman reports.
It's expected that up to 3,700 employees will lose their jobs. In a tweet on Friday, Elon Musk said the company was experiencing a massive drop in revenue as advertisers hit the pause button. General Mills, Audi, Volkswagen, and General Motors have all frozen ad spending until there's more clarity on how the company will function under Musk's ownership.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he still plans to build a new nuclear power plant, despite reports the project could be scrapped. Sizewell C was expected to provide up to 7% of the nation's total electricity needs. From FSN's London bureau, Sally Patterson with more.
Sizewell C was one of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's last promises in office. Reports suggest the project could cost £30 billion to build. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is expected to announce a raft of spending cuts and tax rises in his autumn statement later this month. But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's official spokesperson insisted that Sizewell C would go ahead.
As the US enters the final weekend of the country's midterm election campaign, there was brighter economic news for President Biden and his fellow Democrats today. The US economy created 261,000 new jobs in October. That's more than analysts expected. The president pledged to continue making the battle against inflation his number one priority. The New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump may announce his next campaign for the presidency in 10 days' time. At a campaign rally in Iowa on Thursday night, he went further than ever before in telling supporters that he may try to make a return to the Oval Office.
In order to make our country successful and safe and glorious, I will very, very, very probably do it again, okay? Very, very, very probably.
Much, of course, will depend on the outcome of next Tuesday's midterm elections. In the UK, a series of planned strikes by the country's railway workers' union has been suspended, including a day of action that was due to take place this weekend. The RMT union says agreement has been reached to engage in intensive talks with employers. Christian Woolmar is a former transport correspondent for Britain's independent newspaper.
They're going to negotiate with the train operators and Network Rail, but really, we do know that unless the government sanctions a deal or a certain level of payment, then no deal will go through.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at breakthrough research in the fight against depression. A peer-reviewed study published this week by the New England Journal of Medicine shows that a single dose of psilocybin, the hallucinogenic derived from psychedelic mushrooms, is effective in alleviating severe depression when it's combined with talk therapy.
We've established that 1 in 5 of those people for whom everything else had failed so far had seen significant improvement after 12 weeks.
Sir Norman Lamb chairs the South London and Maudsley National Health Service Trust.
I think it's very exciting. We should be clear, it's not likely to be a panacea for eradicating depression across society, but what this shows is that, particularly for those people who have what we call treatment-resistant depression, where existing treatments, antidepressants, simply fail to have any impact, a significant proportion of those people appear to respond to psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms.
The study's authors hope that its data will lay the groundwork for the US Food and Drug Administration to offer regulatory approval for the use of psilocybin in the treatment of depression. 16 million Americans alone are estimated to be suffering from it. The main news again, thousands of employees at Twitter are being laid off worldwide, with the company's new owner, Elon Musk, expected to terminate 50% of the company's workforce. The US economy created 261,000 new jobs in October. That's more than analysts expected. And the New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump may announce a fresh bid for the US presidency in 10 days' time. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
If you're the parent of a man-child, you know how frustrating it can sometimes be. The piercing sound of his video games waking you up at 2 a.m. His insatiable hunger and inability to cook anything for himself. The messes he makes. The stress can be overwhelming.
Something will set them off, such as their man-child will tell them that they don't know how to tie a tie even though they're almost 30. They'll start shaking them and yelling and saying, "What the hell is wrong with you? Why don't you get a real job instead of working part-time at a board game store?"
The results of shaken man-child syndrome are devastating. Trauma caused by the brain colliding with the inside of the man-child's skull can lead to cognitive disabilities, making it even more unlikely he'll finally marry the girl he's been having a long-distance online relationship with for 6 years. Or it can even lead to death.
He's not spilling cereal all over the couch or leaving his beard clippings in the bathroom sink intentionally. He truly does not know what he's doing.
For the Lab Report, I'm Stuart Adams.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us here. Bring up anything you want. And the phones are open at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up, we're going to address one of the worst problems that faces libertarians and Green Party and other third parties out there in the United States, and that is the ever-present and awful wasted vote syndrome. And we will get to that. We've been doing kind of a recap and update on what has happened here in the last 48 hours with mainstream media, especially the right-leaning media, running with a fake news story about a character here that they're running for Senate in the U.S. Senate here in New Hampshire named General Don Bolduc, who straight up lied and claimed that our friend and co-host Joa from Breaking the Flaw, it's one of the channels on Odyssey and YouTube, that he hit him, but he didn't. And the video is pretty crystal clear. You can go see it for yourself. By the way, in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Chris,
and nobody.
And nobody is here
hey,
as well.
We all three of us.
Not really in the studio though.
You're in our virtual studio. You're in our you're on the show, and we're glad to have you. So we've been kind of doing an update on that. We're going to dig further into it, but the phones are open, so let's go to them. We've got Dustin on the line in Utah. Go ahead, Dustin.
Hi there. How's it going?
Hey, what's on your mind, dude?
I was just listening to the digest from a few days ago, and there was a guy that called in and talked about the great economy under Trump, and I just wanted to chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, sounds like a load of garbage. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. A lot of these people that think that Trump was so great forget to look that it was going up the entire time.
Sorry, I don't know what's happening to your call, but you said something was going up, but it kind of cut out. I don't know if it's a bad signal or what happened.
I'll get closer to a window.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Say that again.
The economy under Obama was going up nearly the entire time, and so people that were investing, the previous 8 years to Trump were also, making bank in the stock market. But the problem with this is Obama was just adding on to the house of cards that other presidents and other administrations have been building.
Sure.
Trump then added to the house of cards, which then began collapsing while he was in office. But the MAGA Republicans forget to look at what happened before and what happened at the end.
Yeah, well, thanks to all the COVID crackdowns and insanity that also started under Trump. So, and don't forget the $2 trillion bailout that Trump signed and the Republicans and Democrats voted for. So, I mean, the whole Federal Reserve System has been backed by the Republicans and the Democrats the whole time.
25% tariff on there too under Trump, and then Trump got rid of it at the very end, at the end of his regime, and who reinstituted it immediately?
Biden.
Biden.
Shocked and surprised.
Yeah. The Democrats and the Republicans, they're one and the same.
Yeah, I like what Footloose said the other night. Two wings of the same ugly bird, or whatever.
Oh,
right?
that's a much better expression.
The same vulture, I think, was the term
vulture.
That he used. What else, Dustin? Go ahead.
Also, just wanted to point that out that the Democrats do the same thing. If the economy is doing well under them, they take all the credit, and if it's doing bad, they blame it on others. And Republicans, Democrats, they do the same thing. So, just wanted to comment on that since I had just listened to that episode from a few days ago.
Absolutely, Dustin. Thanks for calling and sharing that tonight. Here, the number is 603-283-6160, and you're going to see that happen if the Republicans win the midterms, if they take the U.S. House and the Senate, take control of it. Well, they're still going to point at the Democrats for all the bad things to come, right? Because inflation's going to keep happening because they're not going to stop spending, right? They're going to just do their Republican spending, which will be pretty much like the Democrat spending with maybe a few tweaks here or there, but they're going to keep cranking it up, and that's going to mean more money printing, and it's going to mean, more inflation, and they're going to just point the fingers at the Democrats and blame them for it. And they'll blame Biden because, we need a Republican president to finally change things here.
You had option,
which they had before,
right? I mean, this is just always blows my mind. It's like how we've gone back between leadership as far as Democrats and Republicans, right? Again and again and again, and nothing ever changes for the better.
Nope.
Why does the masses keep doing the same thing? Again, election cycle after election cycle after election cycle. You'd think they would have learned that voting for the same two parties doesn't work.
You would think. Let's go to Alu on the line here from the Liberty Block at libertyblock.com. Hello, Alu.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, welcome to the program. Actually, it's a good thing you called in. I think we were actually about to get to your article from libertyblock.com, which is addressing the whole situation we've been talking about for the last two shows, which is, of course, what happened to our friend and activist Joa from Breaking the Flaw there at the debate, or rather outside of the debate. I imagine you've been watching this pretty closely, Alu, since you wrote a story about it?
Yeah, I've heard that Joa is a leftist Democrat activist for Hassan.
No,
that's
he's
what a lot of
definitely
the
not.
mainstream media is saying. And I'm trying to comment on these conservative pages. Some of them are, my friends saying it. Some of them are others saying he's, probably a Democrat. And I'm like, guys, He's my friend. I know him. I've known him for a few years. He's also well known in the Liberty community. He also has one of the biggest police accountability Liberty channels on YouTube and Odyssey. And like, I know him, and he's definitely pro Liberty. He's not a Hassan guy. And like, oh yeah, shut up, you're all a Democrat.
Yeah, you know what, Joa? You know what, Joa? I would say this. Joa can be a bit cringeworthy at times. However, he is one of the best activists when it comes to government accountability.
Hands down.
And the thing is,
I wish we had 10 more Joas.
Right, absolutely. And the thing is, I think the value that he brings, to liberty and freedom is, in some sense, by being cringeworthy, because ultimately, if you can get government officials to respect the most atrocious, disgusting speech. Not that I'm saying his speech is the most disgusting, but cringeworthy at least, right?
He was profane.
Right.
He was profane,
right,
for sure.
Right. Then you know that the rest of us who don't tend to go that way aren't going to be arrested or as likely to be arrested when we are in a position where maybe we need to film a cop, doing something they're not supposed to, or a bureaucrat or something else. How many other people are going into government offices and filming? And what happens if you're in a situation where, I don't know, there's some sort of corruption going on, maybe when you're paying your tax bill, and if you pull out a camera, are you gonna feel fear being arrested?
Yeah.
You shouldn't, but it's because of people like Joa that ensures that
he helps protect everybody.
Right, protect everybody
for sure.
Even if you don't agree with some of the things that come out of his mouth.
Yeah, his balls are incredible. It's amazing that he does these things. Like, I would be afraid to do a lot of what he does, and it's good that I think he's very polite and very nice in general. Sometimes he'll get more stern and pretty strong and against the police and stuff. And when he's against Democrats, sometimes he'll even yell back at them. Some of the things like Jeremy Kauffman and Joa and some others yelling at and cursing at the Democrats at the last two debates, I don't know if that's necessarily my tactic. And I know some conservatives think it's a little distasteful. But again, everyone has their own tactics. Some people may not agree with my tactics. For instance, I have been known to allegedly refer to cops as a certain kind of mammal that walks on 4 feet as pink. And some people don't like that tactic either. So everyone has their own tactics, and that's fine. But right now, one of the main things that I wanted to say is that conservatives right now, because I'm in a lot of the group chats of conservatives and libertarians.
Oh, yeah.
And again, it's a spectrum. It's not binary. There's a big spectrum of everyone who's conservatarian. In New Hampshire, the Liberty Movement, I consider a lot of conservatives in that movement because we all want liberty. And we all differ a little bit on some issues. And a lot of these conservative chats are furious beside themselves with anger right now about pretty much what happened and like the verbal attacks against Bolduc, but also the fact that they want him to lose. And when Carlin and people say, we're going to make your candidate lose, then it gets tougher for me to tell the conservatives, hey, they don't want Hassan to win. They don't want Bolduc to lose. They support Kaufman. They support liberty. They support the principles of peace and not war. But then they'll show me a video of Carlin screaming in their face, we want Bolduc to lose and let Hassan be elected, and we'll show you and we'll teach you a lesson. That makes it a bit tougher to make that argument. But I understand.
Well, I don't know if you're referring to the video that Therese Grinnell posted of Carlin having a conversation with one of the Republicans at this protest, but she didn't scream in his face at any point. She asked him a question. But we'll get into it. Do you have time to stay with us here, Alu?
Yeah, sure.
All right, there's more in a moment because I'm worried about Alu. I'm worried he might be suffering from wasted vote syndrome, and I want to find out straight from him here in a few moments. We're going to find out. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Do you prefer to listen to Free Talk Live on your schedule on demand? You can find the link to our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com, which features the daily digest of our radio show 7 days a week. Just drop our RSS feed into your favorite podcast client or subscribe to us on the large platforms if you prefer, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and Stitcher. All the links are at feeds.freetalklive.com. If the daily digests aren't enough for you and you really don't want to miss a moment of Free Talk Live, you can always sign up for our AMPS Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com for just $5 a month, and you'll get the full radio show without recorded commercials. Plus, you'll help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's amps.freetalklive.com to join AMPS, or feeds.freetalklive.com to get our main podcast, or find us on the major podcast platforms. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And it's Ian, Chris, and Nobody joining you here tonight. By the way, you can join us online anytime you want. Just go to freetalklive.com and enjoy the features that we have for you. And if you worked or lived at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and you've suffered from cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, you may be entitled to compensation. I'm going to give you a phone number that you can call to find out if you might qualify or your family members might. There were some contaminants in the drinking water during those years that may have led to some horrible diseases, so there might be deadlines involved in filing here, so don't wait. Just call this number, 888-918-1037. That's 888-918-1037. If you were at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and you've had a serious health issue, there's money already set aside. It's 888-918-1037. We go back to Alu Axelman with us here from the Liberty Block at libertyblock.com. And I got to know, Alu, are you potentially suffering from wasted vote syndrome right now as we get closer to this midterm election?
Well, I don't want to practice medicine without a license, and I'm not a biologist, but I think my tentative plan, I keep going back and forth because obviously I love Jeremy and I've known Bolduc for a bit too. My tentative plan is to do the best to remove Hassan, which will be a vote for Bolduc. Obviously, I want. Yeah, I know it's tough.
How is it that as a libertarian, you're an actual member of the Libertarian Party, right?
Yeah, I think so. And more importantly, I'm a voluntarist.
Right.
So, yeah.
How could I just, to me, this is just like mind-boggling. But even nobody was considering voting for this guy, although he's now apparently gone more firmly into the Kaufman camp. How could you vote for somebody who's obviously a big government Republican just because you don't like the big government Democrat?
Well, a few things. Number one, everything's on a spectrum. I think he does love liberty. Again, do I think that he is going to do everything that he says? No, because once you're a politician or a candidate, as even I knew when I ran for a smaller office, every candidate lies and politicians lie more. So
you admit that this guy's probably lying to get your vote.
You're aware he's a law enforcement agent too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wanted to correct the record. I think Free Talk Live was
mistaken
a few nights ago, wondering if he was a cop. He became a cop, I think, a few months ago in his local town. Like
right, Hampton? Is it Hampton?
Something like that, somewhere out there. So, so I know. Overall, I do think he will be more pro-liberty. Will he be a Rand Paul kind of vote or Mike Lee kind of vote or more of a mainstream kind of vote? I don't know. But overall, if you look at the 1,000 issues that the Senate might address, even though they don't pass much legislation, I know the agencies do most of the work. But if they, as far as the bills, I think he will be towards the top, let's say, quarter or top 10% of Republicans as far as being pro-liberty. Is he the biggest warmonger ever? Again, it's hard to know. I don't think so. I think what he said about Ukraine was a few months ago, and he has walked that back. Again, it's impossible.
You mean when he said that he wanted to go all in into Ukraine and then start a war with China and Russia on top of that?
Yeah, I don't know if he said start a war, but he said be strong against China and all those other countries, and I don't support that, obviously. I don't support any of that intervention. And again, as a debate, I was wishing for Kaufman to be there because when they asked, Iran is, not doing things domestically really well for their women and others' rights in Iran. What should we do to intervene? They both said that we should intervene. And I'm like, Kaufman would say we should not do anything. Let Iran be Iran and let's worry about ourselves. So I wish we would have had that third voice in the debate.
So I got a question for you. So I don't really know. I haven't followed this guy. I don't really know much about him. But at this is what I know about the guy. Basically, only what happened at the rally.
He's a liar.
Well, that he's a liar, right? Yeah. But he came off as this strongman, acting as a ex-military strongman, Putin kind of like figure to the crowd, which I thought was very interesting. Thoughts on that? Because it seems like a liberty-minded person would not be voting for a Putin-like figure.
I'm not sure I totally understand what you mean by the Putin-like figure. He's an interesting. He seems very charismatic. First time I met him, I was impressed. He's very charismatic.
Politicians are good at that, dude.
It's hard to know. Yeah, it's hard to know. Part of me thinks he's very much not a politician kind of guy. When I met him, he was very charismatic and nice.
I want to try to shake you out. Now, look, Alu, it's one vote. It doesn't matter, right? Like, to me, it doesn't matter what you ultimately do. We're still going to be friends. But I want to try to shake you out of your stupor here. Politicians are great at being charismatic. They want you to like them.
I've seen tons of these, yeah.
Yeah, they're very likable. Yeah. And then he's going to tell you whatever it is that you want to hear to give him your vote so he can have power. That's what this person is all about. And it's crystal clear.
So like I said in my article, again, I wouldn't bet my life that he's going to be a Rand Paul kind of vote in the Senate. I could hope, but I couldn't bet my life.
Not even Rand Paul is that great, right? Like, he's not even, he's like a shadow of his father. Just to say Rand Paul is the best of the Senate is like saying that he's the best cancer.
Yeah. So in my article, I explained the 5 reasons why we should remove Hassan. And the best way to remove her, again, practically speaking, I understand the third-party spoiler vote. I've written about this and spoken about this many times, the wasted vote crap. I know, and it sucks. But we have binaryism right now.
Doesn't it feel weird, then, if you are aware of what the wasted vote syndrome is, to be victim of it?
So that's why I wrote those 5 things in the article. And the 5 reasons why I would say vote for Bolduc, even if it's just to get rid of Hassan, is to punish the incumbent is one of the greatest things. To put fear to politicians that their re-election is not automatic. Politicians in D.C., the senators and congressmen, think that they're re-elected about 97% of the time because that's what they are. If we remove one, it puts fear into them and everyone else in the universe, including Bolduc. So if Hassan loses, we beat her. she will know that she lost because of the Liberty vote in New Hampshire.
No, she
Bolduc
won't.
will be afraid, at least in 6 years.
Yeah.
And will know he is not going to be automatically reelected.
She won't know that.
There's two things here. One, I think, is the wasted vote syndrome, which I think is more. I'm looking at it from more of a practical standpoint. But there's also the principled, which we haven't talked about, but we kind of said off air that you hold with the quote. Do you want to go into that a little bit, or
which quote? I'm sorry. What?
What was it? Vote not voting for.
I think you're referring to the quote that was shared by one of our.
It's a wasted vote.
One of our audience members. Is that what you're referring to? We'll have to.
Vote is the vote not on principle.
No. I think he's. We got a couple folks here in our audience tonight, and he had one of the founding fathers had a quote about this. I suspect we're going to have it here in a moment. But nobody, you're listening to this. You're somebody who was leaning towards Bolduc, and you've changed your mind. I mean, what do you think about where Alu's coming from?
I mean, I was considering voting for him. It was really hard with some of the foreign policy positions. I probably wouldn't have ended up voting for him anyway. But, I don't, it's not really better to have, an ex-general stealing all our money and sending it to the Ukraine than it is having, a drunken housewife stealing all our money and sending it to the Ukraine. What's he better on? Anything?
Well, stand by, Alu. I presume you can stay. I know you're on duty at your job, so if you got to run, we understand. But hang on, otherwise we're going to bring you back. More coming up here in moments. We'll let Alu answer that. And I do have his 5 points. This is part of what I wanted to go over, his reasons here. And it doesn't matter where you're located. If you're in a third party, you've got to deal with this stuff all the time from friends and coworkers and family members. This wasted votes syndrome. More coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Thousands of employees at Twitter are being laid off around the world, with the company's new owner, Elon Musk, expected to terminate about 50% of the company's workforce. Ahead of Friday's firings, a class action lawsuit was filed claiming employees weren't given sufficient notice of the layoffs in violation of American law. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Texas, Tony Waterman reports.
It's expected that up to 3,700 employees will lose their jobs. In a tweet on Friday, Elon Musk said the company was experiencing a massive drop in revenue as advertisers hit the pause button. General Mills, Audi, Volkswagen, and General Motors have all frozen ad spending until there's more clarity on how the company will function under Musk's ownership.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he still plans to build a new nuclear power plant, despite reports the project could be scrapped. Sizewell C was expected to provide up to 7% of the nation's total electricity needs. From FSN's London bureau, Sally Patterson with more.
Sizewell C was one of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's last promises in office. Reports suggest the project could cost £30 billion to build. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is expected to announce a raft of spending cuts and tax rises in his autumn statement later this month. But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's official spokesperson insisted that Sizewell C would go ahead.
As the US enters the final weekend of the country's midterm election campaign, there was brighter economic news for President Biden and his fellow Democrats today. The US economy created 261,000 new jobs in October. That's more than analysts expected. The president president pledged to continue making the battle against inflation his number one priority. The New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump may announce his next campaign for the presidency in 10 days' time. At a campaign rally in Iowa on Thursday night, he went further than ever before in telling supporters that he may try to make a return to the Oval Office.
In order to make our country successful and safe and glorious, I will very, very, very probably do it again, okay? Very, very, very probably.
Much, of course, will depend on the outcome of next Tuesday's midterm elections. In the UK, a series of planned strikes by the country's Railway Workers Union has been suspended, including a day of action that was due to take place this weekend. The RMT union says agreement has been reached to engage in intensive talks with employers. Christian Woolmar is a former transport correspondent for Britain's independent newspaper.
They're going to negotiate with the train operators and Network Rail, but really, we do know that unless the government sanctions a deal, a certain level of payment, then no deal will go through.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us. Think of anything you want. The number is 603-283-6160. We're trying to treat our friend for wasted vote syndrome. He is suffering right now under the delusion that a politician is going to actually honor his promises and do what he said he's going to do, which, you know, should know better than that. But we're going to continue with that in a moment. But I do want to let you know about Freedom's Phoenix, which is where you can go for all news, economic, government overreach, insane government spending, and more. You can get today's headlines in one place. And from a fresh libertarian perspective, you can find that at freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Chris.
And nobody.
And we also have Alu Axelman on the line with us here. He wrote an article at libertyblock.com, which when I first looked at the story, I read a good chunk of it. I thought, all right, good piece from Alu. And then Bonnie was talking about it later today, and she says, did you see what Alu wrote? I'm like, yeah, I read it. It looked fine. I clicked like or whatever. And she said, well, we should read it. You should read it again, or we should read the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole article.
Yeah, read the whole article. I didn't, because I've been busy editing video today. I put together a 20-minute video from.
You did
from
the same thing I did. Pretty much was skim it, and there were a couple words in there. I was like, oh, I don't know if I would have said this or that, but for the most part, it didn't seem like it was that terrible.
Yeah,
but.
and it doesn't come right out. I don't think he says that. You don't say in the article that you're gonna vote for Bolduc, but you kind of tip your hat that you are, because you give 5 reasons as to why someone should. And for listeners just tuning in, we are talking about this psychopath, General Don Bolduc, who is running as the Republican candidate against the other psychopath, Maggie Hassan, who's the current incumbent. And he is a smooth character, right? Like a lot of politicians. He's very persuasive. He's very charismatic, as you said, Alu, that you've met him. You believe in the things that he is saying, even though we've now proven that he's lied yet again. And when caught in a lie, he doesn't admit he was wrong, but he just changes his story and then continues telling lies.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of bad signs here.
I
didn't say I believe everything he said. I said I believe that he will be overall more pro-liberty than Hassan, and I do still believe that.
Yeah,
he might go back on 90% of what he says now as far as the Senate, but Hassan votes roughly 100% against my values in the Senate.
My boyfriend was, I wouldn't call him pro Don or anything, but he was also ready to vote for Don, and if it wasn't for that video, he would have voted for sure Don. And he was shocked. He was shocked because the guy he had actually met Don at during a prior election cycle at some sort of conference or event, and he came off very well. He presented himself very well. Mm-hmm. But I think this is a good opportunity to see the truth. To see the real Don, as opposed to what he likes to present himself.
I'm also surprised, Alu, that your priority here, based on the 5 things we haven't gone over yet, but you touched on one of them, about punishing Hassan, the current incumbent. I'm surprised that your priority is to punish the existing politician somehow or send a message to that person rather than sticking to your principles and keeping your hands clean, not getting blood on your hands, actually going with your conscience and voting for the person who most closely aligns to you, which I presume would be Jeremy Kauffman, as you're a member of the Libertarian Party, and you were at the event where Jeremy was nominated.
Yeah, his values are probably 100% the same as mine, whereas Bolduc, again, it's somewhere between the range of between 40 and 90%. It's really hard to know on exactly what he's...
That's a pretty big range.
I know, and that's the thing. You don't know what politicians will do, and everyone's the same once they get to D.C., and I think you and I will be the same, and that's why you and I don't really even strive to get there, because we know that it corrupts.
Well, yeah, and to be fair, Jeremy Kauffman could be corrupted as well if he actually ended up going to D.C., but we both know that the odds of that happening are fairly slim, and one of the other reasons why a lot of people who are libertarian support the libertarians beyond their own conscience is that they understand that there are benefits to voting your conscience, in that if the Libertarian Party here can get over 4% or 4% or more of the vote in this particular race, then that will actually give the Libertarians ballot access.
Yeah, this is the practical thing that I think is important to point out. It's because this isn't just a philosophical. I agree with you philosophically, but it's also got a practical implication by supporting Don here.
Supporting
that's why
Jeremy.
I was hoping that Carlin would.
Well, he's supporting Don. 4%. Or voting for Don.
Well, unfortunately, Carlin is running against another libertarian, so there's actually 2 libertarians in the governor race here. So what you're pointing out is there's 2 statewide races where that 4% could be gotten, and unfortunately, the libertarian vote's going to likely be split in half, or roughly there too, in the governor race. So the odds that one or the other of those 2 libertarians are going to get to 4% are very slim. So Jeremy is the best bet. And your one vote isn't going to make a difference when it comes to, the odds that Bolduc or Hassan are going to win by 1 vote are near to infinitesimally small. But one vote could make a difference for Jeremy Kauffman, because he won't get as many, right?
Yeah, and you mentioned punishing Hassan. It's not just about punishing her, and again, she should be punished, but it's about sending a message to all incumbents on all levels in the United States that they are not gods. They think they're untouchable. And the message of getting rid of one. Remember what happened when AOC, and she's not, a paragon for liberty. She's, 99.9% against my values. But when she took out Joe Crowley, I believe, who was a congressman for like 29 years, never thought he would lose ever in his life. When she beat him in the primary, it sent a massive message to the
what has it done? That hasn't done anything.
Not much. I mean, it made the Democrat Party a bit more populist and progressive and socialist, and a bit less Democrat establishment. But on the right, we see that as well. When Liz Cheney lost in the primary, Murkowski lost in the primary, it is really good for the people who really believe in those values, so conservatives in that case. So I think that's really important. But on to my next few reasons to vote for Bolduc is I mentioned he's more pro-liberty. I mentioned that punishing incumbents is kind of the most important thing in the world in some ways. Right now, the congressional delegation for New Hampshire, for those who don't know, has 2 senators and 2 representatives in the U.S. House. They're all Democrat. In my experience, one of the biggest impediments to Free State Project recruitment, that's the migration of people who love liberty, who move to New Hampshire after giving up on the other 49 hellholes. The biggest impediment, especially from conservatives and conservatarians who often become libertarians and voluntarists, which was my experience, a lot of their biggest issues with the FSP is they say New Hampshire, from where I am right now in Texas or California, it looks like a blue state. Yeah. Because they see it always votes for blue for president and Congress and Senate.
I hear this too, and my thought on that is I'm not looking to attract conservatarians. I'm looking to attract libertarians.
Well, there are only like a dozen libertarians left in the union, so I'm looking for those conservatarians who are going to evolve.
That's not true. There are thousands of libertarians out there, and
there are a few, but you know what I mean by the pool being bigger. If you look to people who are conservatarian who have
I don't even know if conservatarians are moving. It takes a really hardcore libertarian, to get up and make the move in the first place. I had another question for you, Alu. You've got have you thought about how this affects the the Republican, right? Like we have in New Hampshire, we have a lot of libertarians that are running under the Republican ticket, and getting elected. If you don't you think you have a better opportunity to send a message to the Republicans to pick a better candidate for the Republicans the next time around by voting?
I think that's a decent argument.
As opposed,
I agree.
As opposed to voting for the Republican as is,
rewarding them for picking the scumbag,
right? Because if you keep voting for the same bad Republicans, they're not going to change and select a less bad Republican next time around that you might actually be able to vote for.
Yeah, and by the way, in the conservative groups I'm in New Hampshire, I mentioned that. I said, regardless of what happens, you guys should learn a lesson. You should have selected Bruce Fenton.
But you're not teaching them that lesson by going with their guy.
Right.
Well, I mentioned that, but again, a lesson has also a price to pay. So you could teach a lesson to your child with a little slap or by shooting them in the head, but that's a little bit excessive. You know what I mean? So that would be excessive for that lesson to be taught.
Here's the other question I have for you. You said you thought the most important lesson or the most important thing was to teach incumbents a lesson. What about independence? What about voting for secession? This has got to be one of the most important issues to you. It's on your license plate. You're the president of the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence. I want to know what this Bolduc guy told you about independence, because I know you must have asked him. So hang on, if you got time, we're going to continue here in moments. This is Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join the show here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Chris.
And nobody. And nobody's here as well. And you can join us also. The number is 603-283-6160. Did you ever suffer from wasted vote syndrome? And what was it that cured you of your ailment? We are trying to treat our friend Alu Axelman right now, who is on the line here.
I'm going to answer that question that you just asked.
You've suffered from it?
I'm going to, well, I think so,
Okay.
sort of. I don't necessarily know if I could say I suffered from it because there was zero hope of anything in New Jersey, but certainly, I think it was the Free State Project and the migration movement.
That was your cure?
That cured me. Because ultimately, it actually meant that there was a chance in...
You finally had someone to vote for.
Yeah, right.
So,
and even if it didn't actually affect... Like, even if it doesn't actually get anybody elected, there's other like-minded people who you can show the right path, and if you can get them here, then at some future date, you actually have accomplished something.
So, Alu, are you still with us?
Yeah, and I agree with Chris. And I also wanted to say one of the biggest things I wanted to say in the article is we really should be focusing all of our energy on local and state races in New Hampshire so we can keep making New Hampshire more free. It's already the freest state, but even more free. Yeah. So, again, it doesn't matter who's in D.C. It really doesn't matter that much at all.
I think
the only thing that it matters
agree on with that for the most part.
The only thing that it matters for is some people see our national contingent and go, oh my God, they're not doing anything in New Hampshire, without realizing that,
that's what I was trying to explain to Ian and Chris a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I get that, but I think that's easy to respond to in terms of what's going on in New Hampshire. I mean, there's so many things you can list off that just shows otherwise. I mean, we have so many state reps in the House that are free staters, let alone
articles proving that we're the freest state, and how many free staters elected, and how many pro-liberty people and A-rated NHLA reps we have, and hopefully soon a state senator, at least one. So I respond with that, but there's still a concrete thing, and they say, and it is a fact that's true, that all four of our delegation are Marxists.
But these
Democrats,
people are the people you're talking about are the low information individuals who really don't have any value. These are just right-wing voters who they only care about the federal government. Because what I would point out to them, and probably you have as well, Alu, is, but look, New Hampshire is this unique purple place where, for whatever reason, the people are so independent that they can go into the ballot box and vote for a Democrat in a federal race at the same time voting for Republicans in their local races, because the very same year that Joe Biden, 2020, came into office and New Hampshire voted all blue federally, it also voted all red, quote unquote. I mean, not totally, but to majority red into the state seats, into the governor.
And Sununu won by 30.
To who did? I'm sorry.
Sununu beat the Democrat by 30 in that same year.
30.
points.
30 percentage points. That's a huge. It's a huge win,
Yes,
right?
It's insane.
So that's what you point out to these people. Is
we don't control New Hampshire, right? Like we're
Who's
not.
we?
The libertarians don't control New Hampshire.
No,
yet.
of course not.
So why would you think that we would, have, all libertarians or?
That's not what they're saying.
right?
No. You're missing what they're saying, Chris.
A few conservatives. If we had Thomas Massey and Rand Paul to counter the two Democrats in the House and Senate, that would, I think, attract maybe 5,000-10,000 more free staters a year, and that.
But they wouldn't be the free staters that we actually want. They would just be
right wing. Be the most high information people. I agree.
These would be right wingers who only care about the federal government. If you've got an actual libertarian who has that objection, and I don't think real libertarians would have that objection, because a real libertarian would look at the libertarian success stories and they'd say, "Oh my God, there's nothing like this that's happening anywhere else. I have to be there." That's what a libertarian would do.
We have 40 free staters, and it's been increasing every year.
That are in the state house.
Right, in the state house, that are literally moved for the free state project. I don't know how much better that's 40 times more than any other state.
So you've given a lot of reasons, Alu, which have persuaded you to not vote your conscience in the Senate race. But I asked a question before we went to break, and I am curious as to what your answer is. You are the president of the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence. You're a just go-getter activist who is always out there talking about independence. You're doing it just on the street. You're talking to people. You're constantly bringing this up with people of New Hampshire, and this is your clearly, to me, it seems like your number one issue. So you must have asked this Bolduc character about his opinion about independence, and I'm curious as to what he told you, because I can't imagine that he is in favor of independence for New Hampshire. But I'd love to hear it from you.
I have not spoken to him in a while. I don't remember ever asking him, but if I did, I would presume he would say no.
Yeah, I would too, because he was leading USA, USA. You last 2 nights ago at this event. So even if he had told you that he supported, he's probably lying to your face.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't support it. But again, when we inevitably declare independence in New Hampshire, the Senate might respond with whatever force they authorize the military to use. I do think that he would be more amenable to letting us go peacefully without killing us.
You mean the same guy that wants to go all into Ukraine and then, as Bonnie pointed out, quote, go after China?
I'm wondering, are you on medication, and have you taken your medication?
Yeah, I made sure to bring it to work, so I did take it this morning because I came in last night. So I did make sure to bring it all to work, so I didn't miss a day.
Are you back at the ambulance, by the way? Are you still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's good news.
I'm totally fine. I'm cured of my last disease. I'm back at work.
Here's another question I have for you. You mentioned Karlin Boroshenko, the Libertarian candidate for governor. Are you going to be voting Libertarian in the governor race?
Yes. I think Sununu is so bad that he's so barely better than.
Wait a minute. I thought you want to punish. I thought you want to punish the incumbents, and that was really important to you. So shouldn't you be voting for the Democrat?
I'm punishing Sununu.
But shouldn't you vote for the Democrat, though, to punish Sununu, make sure the Democrat gets in?
It does seem to be inconsistent.
Some people have mentioned that. A lot of conservatives who are so upset at Sununu did mention that. And I'm like, I can't vote for a Democrat like Sherman or Hassan without vomiting. So there's a principle. Yes, I do still have some principle, even though I'm, quote, not real libertarian. So yeah, I couldn't vote for them, but on that, I'll be able to vote my conscience at least.
I think you're a real libertarian, Alu. Yeah. I'm not gonna take your libertarian card away. I don't get into the petty, I'm going to unfriend you because you're not voting for my guy, because I don't think voting is important really at all. But I do feel like voting my conscience is important. I would not want to have blood on my hands by putting somebody into office who is bad not only on war, because we know he's bad on war, but he's an arch statist in so many different ways. This guy wants border control. You know what that means. He wants a total police. He wants a total police state. That's what you're voting for.
I'll concede on point number 3 in my article that the people who are not coming here because we have a blue congressional delegation are probably not the most informed people in the world, and we want the most informed libertarians. My point number 4, I would like to hear if you guys have feedback on, because I haven't thought that much about it, but I think if Hassan loses, I think that'll take a lot of the wind out of the sails of the Marxists here, and less will move here, and some might move away. Like we've seen a lot of prominent progressives move away from New Hampshire because they've given up, and that's why I love the PSP as well as the FSP, getting progressives out of here. So I think that if she loses, that can, again, turn the tide of 1 or 2 more % progressives leaving and a few percent less moving into the
But
state.
again, your vote isn't going to make the difference on that, and I don't agree necessarily. I think you're going to see the arch statist progressives leaving anyway, regardless of what happens, because they are going to have a more and more difficult time getting what they want done at the state level. That's what's really the thorn in their side, is that the libertarians are starting to have tremendous success within the Republican Party here. We know they're infiltrating slowly the Democratic Party as well. I've seen reports about that, and it's just going to get more and more difficult for them. And if they can have more success somewhere else, and they start seeing the grass is greener on the other side, because in their case it actually is, they're going to.
Yeah, this is what I love. I have to say, this is what I love about libertarians in New Hampshire. We're actually having a debate, and we're using persuasion to change each other's mind. It's so refreshing, right? Like, we couldn't get this with the Democrats, we couldn't get this with the Republicans, but at least amongst ourselves, on the little things.
Plus, he actually attacked your friend, Alu. There is actually that little thing where he actually physically attacked.
I don't think the elbow he threw was very hard of an elbow.
No, it didn't look that hard, but it did step him back a little bit. I mean, it did. He did move back after.
I think what happened the other day was really, really, really bad.
It's embarrassing, and he's not bad, and he's doubling down. He's still lying about it. In his interview with WMUR, when he admitted he wasn't attacked, he still claimed he turned away and cowered away to try to block himself from the attack.
It's really bad. I mean, a few years ago, I would have straight up said he's a total a-hole. But nowadays, again, having run in the election, and I wasn't caught up in any big drama like this and scandals. I give people a lot of leeway, and I try to give them benefit of the doubt, because I know that stuff happens and you get caught up in a lie, and then you got to keep lying and spinning and lying and spinning. So I try to not judge people too much. So I totally understand, but it's a really bad look.
He's a lesser bad candidate, but only by comparison to the even worse candidate.
Alu, thanks for going over your article here, which the most important part was the 5 points. We're loaded up on calls here, but check his article out, libertyblock.com. I'll let you get back to work. Thanks for spending time with us. Do appreciate it. And you got 3 more days to cure yourself of this malady. Otherwise, we'll have to say we told you so if he actually gets elected and is as terrible as he looks.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
There are basically 2 types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Thousands of employees at Twitter are being laid off around the world, with the company's new owner, Elon Musk, expected to terminate about 50% of the company's workforce. Ahead of Friday's firings, a class action lawsuit was filed claiming employees weren't given sufficient notice of the layoffs in violation of American law. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Texas, Tony Waterman reports.
It's expected that up to 3,700 employees will lose their jobs. In a tweet on Friday, Elon Musk said the company was experiencing a massive drop in revenue as advertisers hit the pause button. General Mills, Audi, Volkswagen, and General Motors have all frozen ad spending until there's more clarity on how the company will function under Musk's ownership.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he still plans to build a new nuclear power plant, despite reports the project could be scrapped. Sizewell C was expected to provide up to 7% of the nation's total electricity needs. From FSN's London bureau, Sally Patterson with more.
Sizewell C was one of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's last promises in office. Reports suggest the project could cost £30 billion to build. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is expected to announce a raft of spending cuts and tax rises in his autumn statement later this month. But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's official spokesperson insisted that Sizewell C would go ahead.
As the US enters the final weekend of the country's midterm election campaign, there was brighter economic news for President Biden and his fellow Democrats today. The US economy created 261,000 new jobs in October. That's more than analysts expected. The president pledged to continue making the battle against inflation his number one priority. The New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump may announce his next campaign for the presidency in 10 days' time. At a campaign rally in Iowa on Thursday night, he went further than ever before in telling supporters that he may try to make a return to the Oval Office.
In order to make our country successful and safe and glorious, I will very, very, very probably do it again, okay? Very, very, very probably.
Much, of course, will depend on the outcome of next Tuesday's midterm elections. In the UK, a series of planned strikes by the country's Railway Workers Union has been suspended, including a day of action that was due to take place this weekend. The RMT union says agreement has been reached to engage in intensive talks with employers. Christian Woolmar is a former transport correspondent for Britain's independent newspaper.
They're going to negotiate with the train operators and Network Rail, but really, we do know that unless the government sanctions a deal or a certain level of payment, then no deal will go through.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at breakthrough research in the fight against depression. A peer-reviewed study published this week by the New England Journal of Medicine shows that a single dose of psilocybin, the hallucinogenic derived from psychedelic mushrooms, is effective in alleviating severe depression when it's combined with talk therapy.
We've established that 1 in 5 of those people for whom everything else had failed so far had seen significant improvement after 12 weeks.
Sir Norman Lamb chairs the South London and Maudsley National Health Service Trust.
I think it's very exciting. We should be clear, it's not likely to be a panacea for eradicating depression across society, but what this shows is that, particularly for those people who have what we call treatment-resistant depression, where existing treatments, antidepressants, simply fail to have any impact, a significant proportion of those people appear to respond to psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms.
The study's authors hope that its data will lay the groundwork for the US Food and Drug Administration to offer regulatory approval for the use of psilocybin in the treatment of depression. 16 million Americans alone are estimated to be suffering from it. The main news again, thousands of employees at Twitter are being laid off worldwide, with the company's new owner, Elon Musk, expected to terminate 50% of the company's workforce. The US economy created 261,000 new jobs in October. That's more than analysts expected. And the New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump may announce a fresh bid for the US presidency in 10 days' time. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
A cool guy from middle school is still sporting his fat pair of Jinkos. A stunned St. Peter's Square crowd hears the Pope getting bitched out by God, and an 8th grader caked in makeup is probably really confident. This is The Onion Week in Review. This week, a Pew Research Center poll found that the vast majority of Americans would watch a television show called Love Trap, with most saying that regardless of the show's genre or quality, they would tune in weekly to see its stars stumble into romantic triangles, double-cross one another, and contend with whatever the titular love trap refers to. The survey confirmed that 62% of Americans would likely watch Love Trap to see a shrewd but cold-hearted Southern belle named Tammy. 23% of the nation hoped the show would be referred to as The Trap by its most loyal fans, and 15% of respondents said they simply needed something to watch. And in this week's science news, a biologist completes a 5-minute study of the pathetic organism in his mirror. In other news, a man confidently hits send on the worst job application a company has ever seen.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're here. We'll take your calls about anything you want to discuss. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You know, there's been things in the news in the last couple of days, and we haven't talked about them. Like, for instance, Twitter apparently is laying off almost 4,000 staff members this weekend. They got the layoff email today, apparently, and they're not allowed. No staff are allowed to come back until Monday. So they're changing the locks or whatever, right? They're doing what they got to do there, and so that's kind of interesting. There's been a bunch of stuff. The Federal Reserve raising the interest rates again. If we get a chance, we can talk about some of those things. But here in the studio, you've got Ian
and Chris.
And nobody.
And nobody is remotely there. As we continue with your phone calls and thoughts, let's go to them. We have Bob calling from Ohio. Bob, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello.
Hey, what's on your mind?
I just like to talk about the economy. You know, Joe Biden has ran this economy to the near depths of hell. Is that okay if I say that?
Yeah, you're fine on that one. Just, you know, when in doubt, leave it out, I would say should be the rule, because we are on broadcast radio. But go ahead.
You know, communism is rolling through the streets of our government. People are trying to establish a Stalin-like agenda in Congress. We need to make sure that our nation and our little grandchildren are protected from this Bolshevik propaganda.
And how would you propose to do that?
You know, we need to have a full-out ban on communism in this nation. You know,
what would that look like?
A ban on having an opinion. How's that going to work?
A ban on having a bad opinion. Let's say that.
How would that work exactly?
I mean, isn't that what the socialists
want? How many thought
want?
police are we going to need?
And you know, we could do what they did in the 40s and in the 50s.
You mean have like communist hearings and try to identify who the communists are?
Take over the economy, control who every business hires, make every business decision for every businessman. Doesn't that put us halfway to being communists?
We're going to privatize. We're going to have companies privatize so they have decisions. They have more of a decision than the federal government on other things like transportation, healthcare.
Well, what they did during the 40s and 50s is the government told them who not to hire, and they didn't hire those people.
Well, you know, we can have
that
reforms.
was pretty much government tyranny.
Sorry, what was that, Bob?
They would have to have a background check to make sure that they're not communism. They're not communists, sorry.
And what would happen to the communists?
Well, they would be sent to jail.
Well, what if I don't want to pay?
For thinking bad thoughts. You know, you should really look into communism because you think like one.
If you are violating the rules that Congress would sign and the president would declare, you would also be sent to a camp. You know, we do not. If you are violating the laws,
come on, man, you don't really believe this, right? You're trolling us, right?
I was gonna say instead of trying to save the country, you should come to New Hampshire, but you would probably be better off in Texas.
Yeah, this guy's totally Huh?
We need to stop communism in its full tracks.
But
With
dude, it didn't
labor
work the
camps-
last time you tried this.
This is the same thing the socialists are trying now.
Yeah, well, first of all, it didn't work for the
camps
communists
for
to number one. It didn't work for the communists to put people in gulags, and they ended up putting their own people in there eventually, and it was just really horrifying. But the things that he brought up, the whole hearings about who's a communist
Right.
and who's not, that obviously didn't work because, as he pointed out, the communists are running all kinds of institutions, and it didn't work at all, Bob. I mean, what do you say to that?
What it did is it discredited the anti-communist people because people saw that they were just as bad as the communists, and they were going to make your decisions for you too and tell you what you could think and what you could read and what you could say. That's the opposite of the world I'm looking for.
I don't even understand how people see the Democrats and Republicans as two different parties. Like they're both doing like they're advocating for the same thing.
Sure.
They're just, it's like, okay, different time frames we're talking about, but the second the right wing gets into power, they're doing the same thing the left is trying to do now.
The number here is 603-283-6160. Let's talk to Major Payne. He's on the line in Michigan. And just one other thing, like, freedom of speech. Yeah, some people say things I don't care for, and I certainly don't care for the ideas of communism. But the way you fight those ideas is with better ideas. That's persuasion. That's it. But Major Payne, go ahead.
Yeah, I was trying to be open-minded with that last caller until he brought up putting him in the gulag. That was a little bit over the line there. So anyway, speakless or no? Is nobody? I think it was you brought.
Nobody's
up
here.
Just before the last break. About every 20 years, there's a political change in the wind, and how does it keep transferring power back and forth, and yet there's no change? I have a theory on this. I mean, granted, there was political division even after the revolution in this country, but after the Civil War, when Johnny come marching home, there was serious division in this country, and they've been breeding that jackass and riding him ever since. I don't know how they ever managed to breed a jackass. That's a prospect just for the Lord himself. But so every 20 years or so, the politics shifts. Well, about every 20 years or so, a generation changes.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that the father and the son will rebel against the father.
Yep.
And once he comes right-minded, generally he'll come home if the father was right-minded, right? But if you can put that wedge of division in there at that crucial moment in time, you got something.
Okay.
Well, your thoughts.
I'm not picking up what you're laying down, bro.
Well, the division between father and child, and the division between generations. You'll have a Republican generation, and you'll have a Democratic generation. And if the father was a Republican and the son disagreed with him, he'd become an independent or a libertarian or a Democrat.
I mean, wouldn't you have to do that for 20 years?
But isn't that happening all at the same time? Like Democrats are having Republican children and Republicans are having Democrat children, but not all children rebel against their parents. So some of the Republicans are having Republican children and some of the Democrats are having Democrat children. I don't know. Are we oversimplifying this? We probably are.
Well, that's where you missed the part I said. If the father was right in his thoughts, the son will probably come to his senses and come home to the father.
Yeah, but none of these people are right in their thoughts. I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans are a bunch of sick people, for the most part, that still believe it's okay to try to control their neighbors through the violence of the system, to get in control of the federal or state governments and then use that system, which is violence, against their neighbors to force them to behave in the ways that they want them to behave. And that is the sickness that infects all of these people within this political system.
Well, Ian, you're surrounded and outnumbered, my friend, and you don't have the high ground, so you better find a way to smoke a peace pipe with the rest of us assholes.
Thanks, Major, for the call tonight. We are surrounded, that is for sure, and we don't have the numbers. That is true as well. But that's why we're trying to recruit as many liberty-minded people here to New Hampshire to where we will have the numbers. And as of right now, we already have significant numbers here.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's this delusional fantasy that it's actually coming into reality. I don't know how it's happened. I don't know how we've managed to be so successful, but we have been successful. Sure.
It's easy. Well, I mean, not easy, but it's simple.
It's not easy.
It's simple. It's simple, right? There's a difference between easy and simple. It's simple. Numbers make a difference.
Sure.
If you have a concentration of activism, then things become possible that were previously completely impossible, completely out of reach. So it is now possible for libertarians to get elected. They just have to run as Republicans or Democrats and be in New Hampshire. Anywhere else, that plan will not work because you don't have enough activists to back you up. We've got enough people here, and we're going to continue with your calls, by the way. We've got enough people here to where the Republicans are pandering to the libertarians to try to get their votes so they don't lose the election. And that's what we're
It's
talking
crazy,
about
and
tonight.
you're 100% right.
Yeah, so, you're going to have to start being more friendly towards the libertarians or they're going to work against you, and then you're probably going to lose if you're in New Hampshire. More coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Gold and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals shipped fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold back. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live and the phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. I want to say thank you to Dan Gaudreau, who is a Free Talk Live supporter of our AMPS program. You can go to amps.freetalklive.com and you can sign up there. It's our Patreon. You can do it for as little as $5 a month, and that's what Dan is doing. So I really appreciate that support. It helps us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live, which means more people hearing the ideas of liberty, more people hearing about wasted vote syndrome, and all the other stuff that we talk about here on the air. If you like what we do, then you want to help us, please go to amps.freetalklive.com. You can get signed up there. That's amps.freetalklive.com. By the way, before we get back into your phone calls and thoughts, and it is Ian, Chris, and nobody here with you, before we get back into it, I mentioned a 20-minute video that shows a lot more. Like if you've been following the Don Bolduc attack situation and you know the truth that Don Bolduc was the one who attacked our co-host Joa, not the other way around. That video we posted yesterday, early, like in the overnights yesterday. Then I just put a 20-minute version of not just the attack, right, but the whole like more context, what happened before, what happened after, the full arrest. And it was a long arrest because they had to actually, after they took Joa into custody, they were waiting for the police cruiser to arrive. That's why it literally, like most of this video, probably 10 minutes of it, is just them waiting with him in handcuffs as we're just peppering the police with questions as we learn that the police officers didn't even witness the trespass. They made the arrest for trespass, but they themselves admit in the video that they didn't see anything. They were just doing what the security agent told them to do at the college. And so a lot of this video is going to be really useful, I think, when it comes time for the trial. But you get to see it now. Just go to freekeen.com. It is the brand newest article. I just posted it a little bit earlier here tonight. So if you've been wanting to see more from outside of the Senate debate, including some of the heckling that was going on and things that were happening outside beyond just the arrest, there's a little bit of that too. So check it out at freekeen.com. We go to back to your calls and thoughts. Mark is on the line listening to WNDB in Daytona Beach. Go ahead, Mark. Oh, do we have Mark? Mark,
yeah, you got me.
Yeah, we got you, man. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, I think I can solve some of the crime problem, but the American public has to get a backbone. We need to go public execution.
Whoa.
That guy in Milwaukee, he needs to be executed within the next 10 days.
Which guy are you talking about?
That killed the girl, the mom in front of her 3 kids. He needs to be executed within 10 days. The Parkland shooter, he should have been executed a long time ago.
It takes a lot longer than that to put on a trial.
They don't need a trial. If they're guilty, we know they're guilty.
No trial.
3 or 4 people witness them doing their heinous thing. We don't need a trial.
Whoa, I mean, you're talking about a pretty scary idea here. You're saying to abolish the right to a trial and just start executing people that you think are guilty?
No, give them a trial, but give it to them pretty quick. This thing about keeping them alive in prison for the next 20 years is crazy. I don't want to support them. I want them dead.
So you'd be okay if Ian, myself, and nobody decided to make an accusation against you of murder? And
no, not an accusation. If enough people witness,
if we claim that we witnessed you murdered somebody and we don't have a body or anything,
running those people over,
we should just execute you at that point. It sounds like
he couldn't hear you. He was talking.
Well, it depends. If you catch me doing something like that, yeah.
Well, the problem is that sometimes people lie, right? And so that's why we have trials.
I understand that.
So if we rush the trial before there's a body even, you're saying we should just execute the person.
the Parkland shooter in South Florida, the guy that killed all the kids and the teachers, and they want to give him life in prison, execute him. But then they need to pull him out and execute him. That guy in Memphis that killed the jogger, they know he did it. It's proven he did it. Execute him.
Okay.
We need to
And
get
you
1
think
million
that'll
people
do
to
what?
Memphis,
What do you think that'll do?
I think that people will start. When people think they're going to get hurt or executed, they're going to quit doing some of the crimes they're doing.
But there's no evidence that that's true.
You know, there are places that don't give you a real trial and they execute people, as you say, and there's still crime.
Yeah, but I mean, some of this stuff is ridiculous. People have to have a deterrent. There's no deterrent.
Okay, you didn't listen to what Chris just said. What he tried to tell you was that there are places where executions happen regularly and it doesn't deter crime. Like, there's plenty of statistics that show that public executions or executions in general doesn't deter crime.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem with, this thought process of, we just need to execute people is most of the people committing the crimes aren't thinking about the consequences or the penalties for having committed a crime, or they're thinking they're not going to get caught.
Or it's happening in the moment.
Right. It's not a deterrent, that we saner people might have, have.
Well, plus, what if you get the wrong guy?
Right. You're going to increase.
That's the nice thing about just making sure the potential victims are all armed, because if you shoot the guy while he's in the process of trying to kill you, you're probably not going to get the wrong guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean,
yeah. I'm not
to mention you don't die if you do it right.
I'm not only a concealed carry permit owner, I'm also an NRA instructor. So I understand what you're talking about there.
Okay, so I think we could come to an agreement that self-defense makes sense. Like, that's a good idea, right?
Heck yeah.
People should be able to defend themselves. If people have the freedom to defend themselves, then you're going to see a lot of bad guys get taken out in the moment. Then you don't need a trial, you don't need an execution because the deed was done.
That's perfect.
And you just clean up the mess and move on.
Yeah.
And that's the consequence that they do think about when their friends are getting shot, breaking into somebody's house. That's not, free food and a free bed for 10 years. That's getting shot.
But Mark, one of the problems with executions or the death penalty, and a real strong reason why I'm against it, I'm glad I live in New Hampshire where they don't have it anymore, is that the system is not perfect. And it is going to. We've seen corrupt prosecutors go after people who were completely innocent
again and again,
and they frame them and they come up with false evidence and witnesses who don't really remember clearly, but they put them on the stand anyway, and they get them to testify, or maybe they're intimidating them, or whatever it is that happens, or they look similar to the person who did it, but they weren't actually the person who did it. And we've seen hundreds of people who have been exonerated. Thanks to, I believe it's the Innocence Project over the years, from various different crimes. Some of them had been on death row. We've seen innocent people go to prison and then come out later on, and you want to put some of those people to death. I think you need to rethink this.
See, I've got mixed feelings because
see him commit the crime. I mean, if you got like the guy in Milwaukee that ran all the people down, are they sure it's him? 100% unequivocally, it's him.
Well, I get where you're coming from, man, but I don't think eye for an eye, is a good thing. I think that you're lowering yourself to the level of violence in that case, and it's not necessary.
It just becomes revenge at that point. It doesn't
make anyone whole.
Positive impact on society.
Yeah. It doesn't make anyone whole.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings because given a choice between life without parole and death, I'd take death in a heartbeat.
Well, and that's the other thing. I believe studies have shown that actually to execute people is a very, very costly endeavor as well. So thank you, Mark, for the call tonight. At least we could agree on self-defense. I mean, that is something, and that's an important thing. More coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Thousands of employees at Twitter are being laid off around the world, with the company's new owner, Elon Musk, expected to terminate about 50% of the company's workforce. Ahead of Friday's firings, a class action lawsuit was filed claiming employees weren't given sufficient notice of the layoffs in violation of American law. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Texas, Tony Waterman reports.
It's expected that up to 3,700 employees will lose their jobs. In a tweet on Friday, Elon Musk said the company was experiencing a massive drop in revenue as advertisers hit the pause button. General Mills, Audi, Volkswagen, and General Motors have all frozen ad spending until there's more clarity on how the company will function under Musk's ownership.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he still plans to build a new nuclear power plant, despite reports the project could be scrapped. Sizewell C was expected to provide up to 7% of the nation's total electricity needs. From FSN's London bureau, Sally Patterson with more.
Sizewell C was one of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's last promises in office. Reports suggest the project could cost £30 billion to build. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is expected to announce a raft of spending cuts and tax rises in his autumn statement later this month. But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's official spokesperson insisted that Sizewell C would go ahead.
As the US enters the final weekend of the country's midterm election campaign, there was brighter economic news for President Biden and his fellow Democrats today. The US economy created 261,000 new jobs in October. That's more than analysts expected. The president pledged to continue making the battle against inflation his number one priority. The New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump may announce his next campaign for the presidency in 10 days' time. At a campaign rally in Iowa on Thursday night, he went further than ever before in telling supporters that he may try to make a return to the Oval Office.
In order to make our country successful and safe and glorious, I will very, very, very probably do it again, okay? Very, very, very probably.
Much, of course, will depend on the outcome of next Tuesday's midterm elections. In the UK, a series of planned strikes by the country's Railway Workers Union has been suspended, including a day of action that was due to take place this weekend. The RMT union says agreement has been reached to engage in intensive talks with employers. Christian Woolmar is a former transport correspondent for Britain's independent newspaper.
They're going to negotiate with the train operators and Network Rail, but really, we do know that unless the government sanctions a deal, a certain level of payment, then no deal will go through.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and the phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. Ian, Chris, and nobody here. You can join us on the phones. You can join us online as well anytime you want over at freetalklive.com, or join us tomorrow night for our internet-only show, Beard Talk Live, which will feature Captain Kickass and Peakless Mountaineer, and usually nobody is joining them as well. Nobody, are you planning on being there this week?
I'm planning to.
All right, very good. And so Beard Talk Live is a show that is done only on the internet. We're here 7 nights a week doing an actual broadcast radio show that's also online, but Beard Talk Live starts at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturdays, so it's about a half hour after our broadcast radio show ends, and it is only online, only on our video streaming platforms like Odyssey, over at video.freetalklive.com, and that means there's no FCC. So that means you can say the things that you normally can't say on the radio during Beard Talk Live, and some people do take advantage of that during that program. So don't miss that. Make sure you tune in for it if you can live tomorrow night. If you can't listen live, it's okay. You can just subscribe to our podcast. Go to feeds.freetalklive.com and subscribe to the podcast there, and then you will be able to get the audio version of the show later on. So like the next day sometime usually is when that comes out. Usually it's actually the same night, but you never know. Sometimes there's technical difficulties. Well, we're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts here. We've been talking about political corruption, lying politicians, and more here. But first, we have Tom on the line calling from Illinois. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, how's it going, man?
What's on your mind, Tom?
You know, I wanted to talk a little bit about freedom of speech, right? Because it was something that I tried to touch on the last time I was on the air, but I guess it wasn't something that was, acceptable because of the FCC.
Yeah, that pesky FCC. It forced us to hit the dump button, and I don't like doing it, but I have to sometimes when people say certain words.
And so I wanted to touch on something because I don't think many people know, right? In 2016, I actually ran for Senate against Tammy Duckworth and Mark Kirk. I only got about 3.9% of the vote as a registered independent. But specifically because I've heard the topic discussed tonight about political corruption, and I've heard the discussion about freedom of speech. I think the thing that is quite forgotten in this democratic republic is that, people don't understand that it's all about restricting people, right? The FCC, for instance, right? They don't like it when I talk about how this program is full of horse shit.
Okay, well, you can't say that on the air, so I'm going to have to dump your call again. He called back, and the first time he said the S word on the air, and I took his call off the air, and I said, hey, look, we're on the air every night of the week. You're welcome to call back anytime. Because it was his first time, I think, calling in, or at least the first time I remember him calling in. Maybe he's called before. But it seemed like it was an accident, right? Like, to me, it seemed the first time like it was an accident. That was definitely not an accident. That he absolutely did that on purpose. And it's not getting on the air, dude. The number here is 603-283-6160. Let's go to David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live.
He just said horse hockey. He could have stayed on the air.
He could have.
That boy, Illinois. He's definitely Southern Illinois, down by Cairo, Illinois. People think it's Cairo, but it's Cairo.
Is that how they pronounce it?
Cairo. Yeah, you don't want to be thinking people. You don't want to be thinking people thinking you're in Egypt. So you name your town Cairo. Yeah.
We actually used to be on, I think, in that market. We used to have a really small AM station that aired this show. David, do me a favor if you can, hold that phone back from your face. It's just so distorted. I don't know why.
It's all the way at arm's length now, man.
It's just not that much better, but a little bit. Anyway, go ahead.
I got to grow longer arm. What about head?
I don't know. You might need a new phone, but anyway, go ahead. What do you got?
I do need a new phone. Send me one. They're only $1,000. You can afford it.
No, they're not. You can get them for like $30.
Well, the prices are going up.
But that's an Obama phone. I don't want an Obama phone.
Okay. So. What were you calling about tonight?
Well, I was calling about something else, but the Cairo, that's where they got the federal lockup down there. He's probably calling from the federal lockup. Did you hear the recording? Anyway.
No.
Okay. So, first of all, Mr. Guy from Uper guy. I know he's not a Uper. He's Northern Michigan, but Uper sounds better. But Uper guy, he said you'd have a problem if you were breeding a jackass. But breeding a jackass ain't no problem because a jackass is a male donkey, and you use a male donkey to breed to a female horse, and you get a mule, and it's the mule that you can't breed because they're sterile.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now you know.
Thanks, man. Learn something new every night here. What else?
So does the
You're on a roll.
So does the So it's kind of funny because I tuned in tonight, and I had heard on the national news. Oh, wait a minute! I'm not talking about Mr. Cairo anymore. I can switch out of my Southern Illinois accent. That was Freudian. But I heard on the national news about the Bolduc thing.
Oh yeah.
And when I heard it on the national news, I had no idea that it was my good friend Joa that was involved until I tuned in tonight to your program and I heard that. So now I got some incentive to research it and see my good friend Joa getting arrested again in all for good cause.
Well, the good news is we did all the research for you. You can just go to freekeen.com and you can see there's a 2-minute video posted yesterday, and then there's a 20-minute video that I just posted tonight, and that should give you all the context that you need.
Freaking what?
Freekeen, Keene, freekeen.com.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, David.
Okay,
appreciate
good,
it, man. The number here is 603-283-6160. As we continue here, of course, you can bring up absolutely anything. Let's go to this caller. What's your name?
Me?
Yeah, you.
My name is John.
John, what's on your mind tonight, dude? You're on the air.
Actually, the New Hampshire Senate race.
Okay.
So, Don Bolduc, he's general. I believe he's the general. Running for Senate against Maggie Hassan. I've never known how to pronounce her name. Maggie Hassan.
Close enough.
I'm just wondering, from a libertarian standpoint, which of these candidates would be best to support?
Neither.
Yeah.
Neither? Is there a libertarian on the ballot?
There is, actually.
Yeah.
His name is Jeremy Kaufman, and he's come out with some really entertaining campaign advertisements that are just absolutely fantastic, well-produced, and persuasive and brilliant.
And if there isn't a libertarian on the ballot, you can always write in nobody.
Yes.
Because nobody knows how to live your life better than you do, and nobody should be telling you what to do.
I regularly vote for nobody for office.
Yep.
Oh, so you do vote. Last time I called, I believe Sarah was her name. She didn't vote.
Sarah? Yeah, no, Sarah votes. She's...
Oh, no, Sarah doesn't. Yeah, Sarah votes. Since somebody else told me they didn't vote.
Oh, Captain Kickass doesn't vote. He's our Saturday night co-host. He is adamantly against voting.
I see. What do you believe? I mean, you vote, I guess?
I do, yeah. I've run for office.
What'd you run for?
I have all kinds of things. I've run for governor as a Democrat, New Hampshire Senate as a Libertarian and a Republican, state rep, city council, you name it.
So you ran for governor as a Democrat. How'd you do in the primary? I genuinely don't know. I'm not trying to take up time.
I think I got like over 1%.
I'm shocked that you remember, given how many times you've run.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. Ballotpedia has all that information. If you wanted to go back, I believe it was 2012 and 2014.
You run for reasons of speech, of getting your voice out there, right?
Yeah, I ran as a libertarian running as a Democrat, right?
Right.
Because it's a lot easier in New Hampshire. And thank you, Michael, for the call tonight. I appreciate the call. But it's a lot easier to run here in New Hampshire as a member of the major two parties, because then all you got to do is you pay the filing fee and you're on the ballot.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no thousands of signatures that you have to, require jumping through ridiculous hoops, arbitrary and ridiculous hoops. So that's why I did that, just to bring the message of liberty out there into that particular race. And I did better than I expected, which is to say I believe I cracked 1%.
You're a principled guy, man.
In one of the elections. But the most important thing is I got interviewed by different media organizations. I got to talk about the ideas of libertarianism and liberty. And maybe some new people heard those ideas because of it. More coming up.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
If you're looking for work, you know what I mean by elevator speech. It's the short version, saying just enough to make the listener want to listen more. Even if you're not a job seeker, effective communication skills have never been more important, with money and attention so scarce now. So to cut through the clutter, choose every single word as though it was the last word the person you're speaking to will hear. Otherwise, it might be. Instead of saying, due to the fact that, say, because. And avoid mispronunciations. Say jewelry, not jewelry, which could offend. Undoubtedly, you don't want to say undoubtedly. And whatever you do, never use a preposition to end a sentence with. Just kidding. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open here, and you can join us. The number, it's 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Chris.
And nobody.
We were talking, actually, a caller called in about running for office, and he had asked me, because I mentioned I'd run for a variety of different things. He asked me about how that was or whatever. We ended up talking about results, and I misrecalled. I had said I did better than just over 1%, and it turns out that is true, but that was the second time I ran for governor, where I got 1.47% in the Democratic primary, but that was a 5-way primary, and there was no incumbent in that race. But when I actually ran against Maggie Hassan, who we talked about her previously, she's currently the senator for New Hampshire, but she was, prior to that, she was the governor for a couple of terms, I think, 2 or 3 terms. And I had run against her in her re-election campaign in 2014, and in that race I got 4.1%.
So I did much better than I had recalled doing. And again, all I ever did was I just simply responded to media inquiries, right? I just wanted to get the word out about the ideas of liberty.
Yeah, this is why I think we're winning in New Hampshire. It's, if the most hated man in New Hampshire, and I'm being a little sarcastic here, but can get the one race, you said you got 36%, something like that.
That was the most. That was this year when I ran as a Republican for New Hampshire Senate in the primary, and I lost to the other guy.
Yeah, if you can get 36%, it's just a matter of getting more people here.
Yeah, that's a fact. And of course, you ran for governor in 2020. It was your first time running for governor. And you almost cracked 1% in a race against a very strong incumbent, Chris Sununu. It was very, very hard to get any traction. And, of course, the media didn't help you by completely ignoring your campaign. I think you would have done better had the media actually picked up on your campaign. But they did everything they could.
Well, I'm told it helps if people know you're running.
Yeah, they did everything they could to keep it silent about you, which was really, really disappointing to see that.
That's how they try to hinder us from getting elected here, is they just ignore us.
Any other comments on that? All right, we continue here. I just want to make sure you guys had a chance because we got other people on the line. We're going to go to the phones here. Let's talk to Elijah on the line in Arizona. Go ahead, Elijah.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
What's on your mind?
I wanted to talk a little bit about my run for public office that I did out here in Arizona. I'm a former attorney. I used to work for the American Civil Liberties Union.
Oh, wow.
I know not many libertarians are incredible fans of the American Civil Liberties Union, but you got to do what you got to do.
I actually joined the ACLU at the same time I joined the NRA.
Oh wow, yeah, that's something right there.
I don't think we're not anti-ACLU libertarians. Yeah. We're generally supportive of the ACLU, but there's been certain things the ACLU, especially in recent years, has done that hasn't been, I think, as principled as some of the past things that the ACLU has done.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I've attended the ACLU awards dinner here in New Hampshire, I think 5 or 6 years straight, and you went with me on the most recent year before they stopped doing it during COVID. So, yeah, I've definitely been a supporter, if not of the national ACLU, certainly the state one, which is really a fairly principled organization and usually stands up in a principled way for freedom of speech from what I've seen. But anyway, Elijah, what else did you have to say?
Well, what I was going to say is, I ran for the Arizona State Legislature in 2020 in a district that was pretty much commonly a strong D seat. So it was, held by Democrats for a very long period of time. Until 2018 when it went Republican, and it's been Republican ever since. And when I ran, I got 46% of the vote, which was pretty good. It was pretty good for a first-time candidate.
Yeah, and that was in the general election, or you got knocked out of the primary?
Yeah, that was the general.
General,
yeah.
Okay, nice job.
Which was great. Amazing. We did a great job. Volunteers were amazing, but. I think the underlying problem of the race was that it was just full of horse shit.
You can't say that on the radio. It's too bad.
I was expecting that.
Yeah, we've been. It's too bad. We've been targeted by some of these trolls for a little while, and they'll bring up a legitimate topic, and it could be an interesting conversation, and then they just go and they say something they can't say on the radio. What's the point of that?
I'm actually a little surprised at how well spoken some of these trolls have been here lately.
Yeah. It's too bad. All right, we continue here because there's another one. John, in New Hampshire, you're on Free Talk Live, supposedly.
How are you guys? I just want to talk about January 6th. I don't plan to say anything dumb. I personally am kind of insulted. We're trying to have a serious discussion here about libertarian principle and personal freedoms, and people are calling in. But I want to talk about January 6th, if that's okay.
You're on. Go ahead.
Perfect. So, what do you guys? Do you believe, firstly, that the election was stolen in 2020? And secondly, if you do, was January 6th an appropriate course of action to reclaim America, I guess?
I have absolutely no care whatsoever about January 6th, other than I think it was words I can't say on the radio, but I think it was such a ridiculous exaggeration.
I think
the Democrats, at least, narrative anyway.
I think a lot of elections are shams in a lot of different ways. I mean, we've certainly seen lots of evidence for some of these voting machines being questionable, and the electronic voting being highly questionable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So who knows to what extent that sort of nastiness was going on. Personally, it really doesn't matter to me who wins the national elections, because whoever wins, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
Because they're going to keep making the government bigger and destroying freedoms. I don't think that the thing that happened on January 6th was a particularly serious occasion. I think that those people were not interested in a so-called insurrection. Otherwise, it would have been much more, well, let's say, violent. And I don't support violence. I don't think violence is the solution to the problem of the state. I think that actually lowers you to the level of the state. But those people were just on an unauthorized tour of the state capitol. And I think all of the fear-mongering and the media about it, the mainstream media, has been absolutely ridiculous, and the prosecutions are completely ridiculous as well.
Wake me when they bring the guns in and they start burning the place down, and then we'll talk about whether
then
or
it's
not.
an insurrection.
Then it's an insurrection.
Nobody, do you want to weigh in?
Then I'll be impressed.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Nobody, do you want to weigh in on John's questions here?
Well, first off, calling it an insurrection is an absurdity.
I agree.
Nobody. I strongly doubt that any of these people thought they were going to go in and overthrow the government unarmed by taking selfies.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of selfies.
What about the people who are chanting "Hang Mike Pence"?
Hang Mike Pence. Were there people chanting that?
That was a chant. Yeah.
I mean, this is very. I don't know if I like the choice of the words insightful, but it's definitely not insightful. That's definitely not the word. But it's inciting, maybe. Like outrage. I think
informative.
No, not informative. But it's creating like anger in the population of the opposing side. But
I tend to be against chanting in general. I find it to be particularly mindless. I don't really care for any chants. It's really it's hard to listen to.
Like hero worship, right?
It's really frustrating. And I certainly am against violence, even though I understand that politicians are violent and they are using violence against peaceful people. I feel like we need to rise above that and be more creative in our solutions. John, thanks for the call tonight, man.
I think
do appreciate
before
it.
we start hanging people, we should definitely tar and feather them a couple of times and see if they get the message.
Give them something to think about.
Right?
Thank you, John. I do appreciate it, man. And thanks for not saying, something you can't say on the radio.
Yeah.
A lot of times when it's a younger voice that calls in, like we're usually hovering over the dump button just to be sure, and I don't like having to do that.
Well, we might be cutting people off before they've had a chance because they're so well spoken here.
Let's go real quick. Anonymous caller, you're on. Go ahead. Hello?
Hi, guys.
Oh, this doesn't sound like a fake voice at all.
No. Totally legit.
Your guys' opinions are bullshit.
All right. Yeah, there we go. Not a surprise. He said the thing that you can't say. So there you go. And we are out of time for your calls here tonight. But for those of you that really get off on saying the S word on the air, why don't you just call during Beard Talk Live tomorrow night? Because then we don't.
We'll
have
go
to
through Carlin's 7 words with you.
Yeah, it's not like it's impressive. We've heard this. Like, what you guys are doing is so old and so tired. It's so uncreative.
And it's not even like we're against those words. Like, you're not even trolling us.
No. No. Just wasting time. You're wasting your time.
Go call a Republican show. Then you'd be trolling people.
Yeah, well, they've got a dump box too.
They do, but they would be upset by the bad words at least.
Maybe we should sue the FCC.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You could do that.
I could if I had the money.
Out of time for tonight, or an attorney who's willing to do it, because that's what you really need. We'll see you tomorrow. Online in the meantime, freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make